Chapter 6780. Bailey Hongzhuang's face was filled with a warm smile. In fact, she was even more happy that Yang Qinxue didn't have the slightest intention of distancing herself from the matter, but instead argued for them. They were Master Zhen's disciples. It was not easy for them to do this. She had always been a person who respected others tenfold. Since Yang Qinxue and Di Lingfeng were willing to stand by their side, she naturally wanted to do her best to help them. Friendship was mutual. You're too polite. What we did was nothing. Yang Qinxue waved her hand. She was still determined. Anyway, we can't accept these things. That's right. If we have to take revenge like this for such a small matter, what kind of people would we be? Yang Lingfeng was also determined. Although they had taken a fancy to many treasures, they planned to trick their father into giving them some when they returned. Hongzhuang and Di Lingfeng had just arrived in the chaotic immortal realm. Even if they had secondary professions, they would not be rich. Their father was different. After being the city lord for so many years, he would have a lot of surplus food on hand. Seeing that the two of them were determined, Bailey Hongzhuang did not force them. She only bought the medicinal herbs that Yang Lingfeng and Di Lingfeng needed. In fact, she had already determined the medicinal pills they needed just by looking at the medicinal herbs they bought. Since they did not accept the blood spirit stone, she might as well refine the medicinal pills. At the same time, she could save some for them in the future. After strolling around the market, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun bought a lot of things. Just as they were about to go back, they saw Yang Han and the others rushing over. When Yang Han saw Yang Qinxue and the others, he quickly rushed over. His face was full of worry. Are you guys okay? Yang Qinxue looked at Yang Han in confusion. What could have happened to us? Fan Guangshuan and the others said that you guys got into a fight with Shan Duanyu. Yang Han also looked at Fan Guangshuan. Originally, he was still chatting happily with his friends when he saw Fan Guangshuan and his group rushing over to inform him of the news. As soon as he heard the news, he understood the seriousness of the matter and immediately rushed over without caring about anything else. His mind was originally filled with thoughts of how to rescue them from this predicament, but he never thought that after coming here, it seemed as if nothing had happened. That was indeed the case, but it has been resolved. Yang Qinxue also looked at Fan Guangshuan and the others with a faint smile in her eyes. Although these guys had always been mean and ruthless, they would still report the incident as soon as it happened. It could be seen that, deep down, they still cared about them. After all, they were all on the same team. It's already been resolved? Yang Han also found it hard to believe. How was it resolved? Grandmaster Xin Xing and Grandmaster Ning Tian came to help us out. This matter was originally slander by Shan Duanyu. Now that Grandmaster Zhen has brought him back to teach him a lesson, this news will soon spread throughout the entire small world. Yang Qinxue knew that if she didn't explain it clearly, her father wouldn't be at ease. So, she told him the whole story. Chapter 6781. Grandmaster Shen and Grandmaster Ning are both rarely seen grandmasters. I didn't expect that they would appear together today to help you out. I really didn't expect that you guys would be so lucky. Yang Han's face showed a relaxed smile. This should be a blessing in disguise. It was a good thing that they could show their faces in front of the two seniors. Isn't it because Beichun and Hongzhuang are capable? Yang Lingfeng smiled brightly. Beichun's array stones were praised by the two grandmasters. Dad, I think we might have some hope in the array master competition this time. Hearing this, Yang Han's eyes lit up. He was worried about everyone's safety and forgot about this point. Now that he thought about it carefully, although Di Beichun didn't participate in the array master competition, perhaps his array skills were really outstanding. Even if his current array master level wasn't high, as long as he had a few more years to learn array skills, it would be good for him to participate in the array master competition in the future. Fan Guangshuan and the others' moods were completely different at this moment. Previously, they thought that Di Beichun and Shan Duanyu were simply courting death, but they didn't expect that Di Beichun actually had the upper hand in the first round of battle. Listening to them, Shan Duanyu had lost all his face in this matter. Beichun, study array skills well. Don't worry about anything else, Yang Han said with a smile. Di Baichen nodded. Then where are you going now? We've already walked around today and are ready to go back, but Baichun is preparing to go to Grandmaster Shun Xing's place, Yang Qinxue replied. After hearing the second half of the sentence, Yang Han's eyes lit up with excitement. Was he invited by Grandmaster Xin Xing? Of course. Otherwise we wouldn't dare to disturb him so casually. Yang Han nodded happily. Since it's Grandmaster Shun's invitation, you can't be late. Go quickly, I'll show you the way. Looking at their father's excited look, Yang Qinxue and her brother looked at each other. Their father had completely forgotten his identity now. I'll wait for you at my place. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Di Baichen nodded slightly. He had originally wanted to go with Hongzhuang. However, according to Grandmaster Xin Xing's previous behavior, he was afraid that he wanted to speak with him alone. Therefore, he didn't insist. Master, will it be dangerous for the male master to go alone? I can tell that Grandmaster Zhen isn't a good person at first glance. His resentment was very obvious when he left. Xiao Hei pursed her lips. Like master, like disciple. The two of them are obviously the same. Don't worry. With Master Xin here, there won't be a problem. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. From the confrontation between Shun Xing and Zhen Gudao, she could tell that Xin Xing was not afraid of Zhen Gudao. On the contrary, it was Zhen Gudao who was a little weak. There was already enmity between them and Shun Duanyu, so it was already destined that they would be targeted by Zhen Gudao. At this time, it was clearly not a bad thing for them to get to know someone on the opposing side. I didn't expect that with Senior Zhong Li's personality, he would actually give people pointers. This is really surprising. Xiaohei had a rueful look on her face as she thought back to when they first met Senior Zhong Li. It was simply too difficult to get a word of advice from him. Chapter 6782. Bailey Hongzhuang could see that Shun Xing respected Senior Zhong Li from the bottom of his heart. If he met Zhong Li's junior, he would definitely treat him as his own junior and nurture him well. However, since they had met this time, they would probably meet again in the future. There would always be a chance. Just as everything was going smoothly for Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, Shun Duanyu was suffering the wrath of his own master. You idiot! You didn't even get to the bottom of the matter before running over to accuse others. If the other party was a nobody without any backing, then so be it. But both Xin Xing and Ning Tian are helping him. Aren't you just seeking your own death? Zhen Gudao's eyes were full of anger. Because of this matter, he was once again a level lower in front of Xin Xing. Master, that Di Baichen indeed has no background, but I don't know why the two grandmasters are helping him so much. Shen Duanyu also felt aggrieved. He was all too clear about Di Baichen's background. He was almost certain that they had never met before this. Even with his status as the city lord of Qingyang City, it was impossible for him to be on this path. Who would have thought that this most impossible thing would actually happen? If he didn't have any background, Shun Xing's attitude today wouldn't be just this. Zhen Gudao snorted coldly. He and Shun Xing had interacted for so many years. Although they had never gotten along, this was the first time they had been so insistent. Spoiled demonic wife. Meow. Do you dare answer? If there was no relationship between the two of them, then it would really be strange. It's just that after Grandmaster Shin saw the mark on the formation stone that Di Baichen created, he was certain that his master had once given him guidance. I also felt that it was baffling. Who would have thought that it would be for such a reason? Shen Duanyu was also convinced. He just didn't understand how Grandmaster Shun could be so certain of all this just from this point. Di Baichen was merely a cultivator who had just ascended not long ago. How could he possibly have such a background? It's actually because of this. Zhen Gudao was also somewhat incredulous. Has this Xin Xing gone senile? Perhaps he knows that you're my disciple, so he's deliberately finding fault with you. Zhen Gudao didn't believe these groundless things. Instead, it seemed more like he was targeting him. Master, will we really tell everyone about this? Shen Duanyu's face was bitter. If this news was made known to everyone, wouldn't he become a joke? I'm afraid this matter can't be changed. Let's just leave it at that. It won't be long before everyone forgets about this. It's fine. Zhen Gudao waved his hand. The competition is about to begin. Behave yourself for the time being, and don't cause any more trouble. Yes, master. Shen Duanyu breathed a sigh of relief. His master had already attributed all of this to the grudges between the four of them, and it had nothing to do with him. Di Beichun, just you wait. Shen Duanyu clenched his fists, his eyes filled with hatred. A nameless pawn actually dared to take down his name. He wanted to see just how strong this guy's array techniques were. As long as he defeated this brat in the array master competition, then all the rumors from before would disappear without a trace. Instead, it would increase his popularity even more. But he had just walked out when a man came in front of Shen Duanyu. The matter you asked me to inquire about earlier, I've already found out. Who was the person who exchanged the Buddha Gilded Body Pills pill formula? Chapter 6783. How is this possible? Shen Duanyu was stunned. The Eternal Azure Spirit Pill was an extremely precious pill formula. With Bailey Hongzhuang's background, it was impossible for them to have it. When I first heard this news, I also found it hard to believe. But after asking several people at the stalls, this matter can be said to be confirmed without a doubt. The man's voice was firm. Doesn't this explain why Master Ning and the others want to help? Shen Duanyu suddenly realized. He never thought that the root of this matter would be like this. So that's how it is. So Bailey Hongzhuang deliberately used this pill formula to gain Master Ning's favor? As the saying goes, one's eyes blind one's eyes. The reason why Master Ning would get involved at this time must be because of this matter. This is not impossible. They have no power, no background, and no power. If they can win the favor of a master through a pill formula, they would naturally be more than willing. The Eternal Azure Spirit Pills formula was indeed precious, but in their hands, it was far less useful than making friends with a master. It had to be said that this method was indeed very clever. I really didn't expect them to be so scheming. No wonder Master Ning was so sure that I couldn't get the Buddha Gilded Body Pills formula. Hey! Shen Duanyu spat. The jealousy on his face became more and more ferocious. He always knew that the relationship between Ning Tian and his master was not good, but he also knew that his master wanted the Buddha Gilded Body Pills formula very much. So he tried to curry favor with Master Ning, hoping that he would relent. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang had made such a ruckus, there was absolutely no possibility of that happening. Then what do we do now? Shen Duanyu narrowed his eyes and fell into deep thought. Now everyone is saying that I'm slandering them. If we release this news, then some people will begin to suspect Di Beichun and the others. This is also very beneficial to me. The Eternal Azure Spirit Pill plus the Buddha Gilded Body Pill is enough to cause them a lot of trouble. Hearing this, the man's eyes lit up. Then I'll release this news. Shen Duanyu nodded slightly. Be careful. Don't make it too obvious, lest others find out. His master had already warned him not to cause any trouble for the time being, so he stayed at his residence with peace of mind. As for the others who wanted to cause trouble for Di Beichun and the others, it had nothing to do with him. Moreover, once this matter was exposed, Shun Xing and Ning Tian would both be questioned, and Master would also benefit from it. After returning to her residence, Bailey Hongzhuang entered her room and began to refine pills. It was said that there would be new vendors and new items at the gathering every day, so they could go take a look tomorrow. Who knows, they might find some surprises. Through her research, she found that the blood demon crystal could not only be used on those few elixirs, but also on every type of elixir. However, depending on the type of pill and the minute differences in the refining process, the time and amount of blood demon crystals used would be more precise. During this period of time, she had already lost count of how many times she had tried and how many times she had failed. It was during this process that she had gained some insights. At the very least, compared to his initial confusion, he now had a certain level of understanding. Chapter 6784. As the medicinal herbs were placed into the pill furnace one by one and turned into a pure medicinal liquid, Bailey Hongzhuang took out a blood demon crystal and tempered it to the extreme so that it no longer contained any impurities. The Immortal Establishing Pill was a pill that could help a cultivator to break through to the elementary immortal stage. However, the Immortal Establishing Pill was different from other pills. It had a restriction, and that was that each cultivator could only consume a maximum of 3 pills. If one still could not break through to the elementary immortal stage after consuming the 3rd pill, the chances of breaking through in the future would become very slim. Initially, she had set her goal on the Immortal Establishing Pill. If she could increase the efficacy of the Immortal Establishing Pill, it would mean that the cultivator's chances of breaking through would increase significantly. 40%. This result could be said to be heaven-defying. This was definitely not an effect that could be surpassed by consuming 2 pills together. The more difficult it was to break through the bottleneck of the elementary immortal stage, the greater the significance of increasing this probability. Even though they could not use it at the moment, they believed that they would need to use it soon. Xiaohei stood quietly by the side, not daring to disturb them at all. Bailey Hongzhuang carefully controlled every step. Her mental energy spread out and grasped the minute changes in the heat. She had only bought 2 sets of medicinal herbs for the Immortal Establishing Pill. Just these 2 sets of medicinal herbs had cost an extremely shocking price. If she could successfully refine the pill, she would naturally earn back several times the price. However, if she failed, it would mean that she would lose everything. A faint fragrance spread throughout the room. As the pill gradually took shape, a trace of joy appeared on Xiaohei's face. However, just as the pill fragrance was getting thicker and thicker, a faint muffled sound suddenly rang out. Immediately after, the thick pill fragrance had turned into a burnt smell. What a pity! Xiaohei's face was full of regret. The pill was almost ready to be refined, but she never thought that it would fall short at the last moment. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned as she looked at the ruined medicinal dregs. She had almost succeeded in refining the pill. Fortunately, there's another set. Bailey Hongzhuang pushed aside the agitation in her heart. She calmed her mind and adjusted her condition to its best before continuing to refine the pill. The room once again regained its tranquility. Only the slight movement of the herbs after entering the pill furnace could be heard. Yang Qinxue and Yang Qinxue sighed when they smelled the scent of the failed pill. If Hongzhuang's pill refining success rate could increase, then she would be worthy of being called a genius alchemist. But it was a pity that the success rate of refining pills was way too low. So many precious immortal herbs were wasted just like that. What a pity. I wonder what kind of pill Hongzhuang is concocting. I think we should completely give up on the idea of learning alchemy. Otherwise, just these immortal herbs alone will exhaust us. Yang Lingfeng sighed. Even if he had the city lord as a father, he still couldn't afford to be drained like this. Indeed, I feel that Hongzhuang's path has not been easy. A trace of heartache appeared in Yang Qinxue's eyes. If an alchemist did not have a strong enough background and had to rely on themselves, then this path would be too difficult. Bailey Hongzhuang, who was concentrating on refining pills, was completely unaware that the siblings outside were actually doting on her so much. If she knew, her feelings would probably be very complicated. Chapter 6785. A rich pill aroma gradually spread throughout the room, and Xiaohei couldn't help but take a deep breath. The pill aroma was invigorating, and even her origin power seemed to have become jubilant. This time, the pill aroma didn't disappear. On the contrary, it became more and more intense, and finally, it exuded an extremely alluring fragrance. This is the Immortal Establishing Pill. Xiaohei's eyes were filled with desire. Just by smelling the pill aroma, she could tell how extraordinary this pill was. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the perfectly round pills in the pill cauldron, and a smile also appeared on her face. At least she hadn't wasted her blood spirit stones. She had refined 5 pills in this cauldron, and their value was undoubtedly much higher than that of the immortal spirit herbs. She took out a white porcelain bottle and placed the pills in it separately. Only then did she open the door and look outside. Beichen hasn't returned yet. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyes to look at the sky. It had already been 2 hours since she left. Maybe Grandmaster Xing took a liking to him at first sight and decided to have him stay for a meal? Xiao He speculated. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. That's not impossible. Let's go and find Qin Xue. The woman and beast walked upstairs and knocked on the door. Yang Qin Xue opened the door. Hongzhuang, you're here. Yang Qin Xue smiled happily and reached out to pull her into the room. As soon as they entered, Bailey Hongzhuang discovered that Yang Lingfeng was also here. She might as well save herself the trouble of making another trip. Qin Xue, Lingfeng, these are for you. Bailey Hongzhuang took out 2 white porcelain bottles and handed them over. Seeing this, Yang Qin Xue couldn't help but say, "You can keep them for yourself. We don't lack these things, so don't trouble yourself." They just noticed that Hongzhuang had failed in refining the pills, and now she had taken out these bottles. It was already very difficult for her to walk this path alone, and now she wanted to help them. How could they accept these bottles? Bailey Hongzhuang also noticed the trace of pity in Yang Qinshua's eyes. She was a little confused. Why would Qinshu look at her like that? This bottle contains what you need the most right now. Don't regret it if you refuse. Bailey Hongzhuang joked. Yang Lingfeng chuckled. Hongzhuang, you're exaggerating. Unless there's an even more powerful immortal establishing pill inside. That's something only you can do. No one else can do it. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. She didn't say anything and just looked at him quietly. Yang Lingfeng was stunned. Suddenly, he reacted and said in astonishment, "Could it be that I was right? Is this the immortal establishment pill?" Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. "If it was an ordinary pill, I wouldn't have given it to you. I saw that you were mainly collecting medicinal herbs for the immortal establishment pill in the market. So I guess that you were preparing to break through to the elementary immortal stage. These 2 immortal establishment pills are 40% more effective than ordinary immortal establishment pills. I'm sure the success rate will increase a lot." As her voice fell, Yang Lingfeng and Yang Qinshu just stood there quietly, their expressions a little wooden. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but wave her hand in front of their eyes, she found that the 2 of them directly rushed up to her. Yang Qinshu grabbed her arm excitedly. "Hongzhuang, you're so nice. Ah, how can there be such a considerate person in this world?" Chapter 6786. Do you want to hug her? At this moment, a gentle voice sounded from behind the door. Yang Lingfeng raised his head and saw the handsome and refined face. It was different from the usual breeze-like face. At this moment, there was a hint of threat in it. "Haha." Yang Lingfeng laughed sheepishly. "I was just joking." The first time he noticed Beichen's displeasure, the intimidating power was not inferior to his own father's. Bailey Hongzhuang looked helplessly at Di Beichen, who had a cold expression on his face, and said with a smile, "We were just joking. Don't make such jokes casually in the future." Di Beichen's voice was cold and hard. Bailey Hongzhuang stuck out her tongue. "Understood." Yang Lingfeng also hurriedly expressed his position. "Absolutely not, I promise." Only when the solemn expression on Di Beichen's face disappeared did Yang Lingfeng breathe a sigh of relief. He also understood that Beichen's feelings for Hongzhuang completely did not allow others to have the slightest bit of desire. "How was your chat with Grandmaster Xing just now?" Bailey Hongzhuang looked over with concern on her face. "We only talked about some exchanges on array techniques. Grandmaster Shun was very generous and was willing to give this junior pointers. He even gave me 2 books to study properly." Facing Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen's expression instantly became gentle, and even his voice was filled with love. "That's pretty good." Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. "Grandmaster Shun is an open-minded person. With him around, at least we don't have to worry too much about Zhen Gudao causing trouble for us." Yang Qinshu and Yang Lingfeng could feel the sweet atmosphere between the 2 of them, and they could not help but feel a little emotional. "Sigh, looking at them like this makes me want to find someone to accompany me." Yang Lingfeng sighed. He had never felt anything before, but now that he looked at this harmonious and beautiful pair all day long, he was a little moved. Yang Qinshu chuckled. "If father heard what you said, he would definitely feel comforted. Don't talk about me. You and Qingli should speed up. Both of you are so lukewarm. I'm getting anxious. Yang Lingfeng rolled his eyes. After so many years, they had already tacitly agreed that the two of them were a couple, but the two of them just had to be so wishy-washy. You don't have to worry about it. Yang Qingchua's expression changed slightly, and she quickly retorted. Qingli, why are you here? Di Beichun suddenly asked. Hearing this, Yang Lingfeng couldn't help but laugh. Beichun, how come even you know how to play people like this now? You two are really... Yang Qingxue turned around speechlessly, only to find that Bai Qingli was already standing behind her. Then did he hear what they said just now? You, why are you here? Yang Qingxue was at a loss. Her face was tinged with a hint of crimson, and she didn't even dare to look him in the eye. Chapter 6787. I'm here because I've heard some news. Bai Qingli's brows furrowed in seriousness, and her voice deepened. There's a rumor going around that you have 2 lost pill formulas in your possession. As soon as she said this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' expressions changed slightly. It was obvious that she was talking about the Buddha's Gilded Body Pill and the Eternal Azure Spirit Pill. I've heard about what had happened to the market. Shun Duanyu had purposely slandered you, but later on, the rumor turned into Master Ning's deliberate protection of you. The reason is because of these 2 pill formulas? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Bai Qingli nodded. That's right. Fuck, this must be Shan Duanyu's doing. That fellow is truly despicable and shameless. Yang Lingfeng cursed. He had thought that Shun Duanyu would stop after suffering such a loss. He never thought that not only would this fellow refuse to stop, he would even spread such a rumor. Even a fool would know that this news would benefit Shun Duanyu the most. Not only would it help him lessen the impact from before, it would also pour dirty water on them. It's not just us. This basin of dirty water has affected the 2 great masters as well. Bailey Hongzhuang furrowed her brows. Compared to their own situation, this was nothing much. After all, Shun Duanyu was an expert in these kinds of tricks. However, the 2 great masters were fair people, yet they had been given such a title. I didn't expect Shun Duanyu's speed to be so fast. Although he stopped in front of Master Ning's booth for a while, there shouldn't be many people who know about it. Who would have thought that this guy actually figured it out? Yang Qingxue looked worried. What should we do now? No one would dare to have any ideas about the lost pill formulas in the great master's hands. However, if everyone knows that you have the lost pill formulas, this matter will become complicated. Although most of the cultivators in the realm of chaotic immortals have not broken through to the elementary immortal stage, they were weak and alone. How could they possibly compare to the other party's strength in numbers? Once these people joined forces against them, even if her father were to intervene, they would not be able to stop them. Father is worried about this, which is why he asked me to inform you. Bai Qingli looked nervous. Why don't you stay with us for the next 2 days? Before more people find out, it'll be safer for us to stay together. Does that mean we can't go out for a few days? Yang Qingxue frowned. Based on the current situation, it's best not to go out. Otherwise, there will be danger. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. She also understood the seriousness of the situation. In this small world, there were many powerful cultivators. If they were not careful, not only would they be in trouble, even the people of Qingyang City and Xi'an City would be in trouble. If we don't leave the house, won't we be letting Shan Duanyu take advantage of us? Yang Lingfeng was unwilling. He couldn't accept letting this guy be so smug. At this moment, Di Beichun's voice rang out. He won't be proud for long. Everyone's gaze involuntarily turned towards him. Could it be that Beichun planned to thoroughly defeat him in the Array Master competition? Master Ning is not someone to be bullied. Di Beichun continued. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. That's right. Shan Duanyu might have dug a hole for himself. Chapter 6788. Yang Qingxue looked at the tacit understanding between the two of them and couldn't help but think about it carefully. She immediately understood. Based on their experience with Master Ning, he wasn't someone who was afraid of causing trouble and his stingy personality was different from Master Shin's. Now that someone had put such a name on his head, it would be strange if he could tolerate it. So, we'll just wait and watch the show. Di Beichin and Bailey Hongzhuang raised their eyebrows. Their expressions had already explained everything. Bai Qingli, who was originally extremely worried, was puzzled when she saw the four of them looking like they were waiting to watch a good show. What do you mean? You'll know when you see. Although they still had to be wary of other people coveting it, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were in a better mood when they thought about how Shan Duanyu would definitely suffer. Look, there are more people around the residence. Yang Lingfeng pointed at the figures outside the window, his eyes cold. Ever since Bai Qingli informed them of the news, he found that more and more cultivators were heading to this place. However, none of these cultivators took the initiative to come to the door. Instead, they stopped nearby to watch, as if waiting to see who would be the first to eat crabs. Even if Qingyang City's performance in the Array Master Conference had always been very good, it didn't mean that Qingyang City's strength was that bad. It wasn't a wise move to easily offend a city lord. However, the allure of 2 lost pill formulas was simply too great. The Buddha Gilded Body pill was fine, but the Eternal Azure Spirit pill was extraordinarily precious. Usually, it had almost disappeared without a trace. Now that the man had appeared, if they missed it, it would be difficult to find him in the future. These guys won't gang up on us, right? Xiao Hei couldn't help but ask. That won't happen. Yang Lingfeng waved his hand. This is a serious crime of attacking a city lord. Ordinary people wouldn't dare to do it. Then what do we have to be afraid of? Xiao Hei asked in surprise. He was worried that these guys would surround them. When that time came, it wouldn't be easy to kill their way out of the encirclement. When we're in the house, the other party won't take the initiative to attack us. But if we go out, things will be different. As long as it's not in the bazaar, the grudges that happen in other places are considered personal grudges between cultivators. When the time comes, it'll be a real gang fight. Yang Lingfeng shrugged. That's why we can only stay here. We definitely can't go out. Thinking about being ganged up on by so many cultivators, that was really a dead end. This scene is strangely familiar. Xiao Hei's lips twitched slightly. Why did she feel like this wasn't the first time something like this had happened? Bailey Hongzhuang was also a little helpless. When she was in Penglai Palace, something like this had happened. She almost lost her life, but fortunately, she made it through. Now that they were here, they had no interest in trying again. It's very safe to stay in the house, but I think father will be in trouble. Yang Qinshua's expression was complicated. She subconsciously looked upstairs. What do you mean? The Eternal Azure Spirit pill. Not to mention ordinary cultivators. Even the city lord would not be able to ignore this benefit. Chapter 6789. Yang Qinshue was very familiar with this kind of routine. In short, this was indeed a big problem. The Eternal Azure Spirit pill was not a very high-grade pill, but it could help a cultivator to refine the yuan power in their body, making it more condensed. This pill could be said to be suitable for any cultivator. However, as time passed, there were fewer and fewer people who had the pill formula. Now, although everyone knew about this pill, there were very few who had actually seen it. The Eternal Azure Spirit pill had appeared before. At that time, it was sold at a very shocking price. Moreover, it was gone in the blink of an eye, which was very regrettable. It was because of this that they were so shocked when they found out that Hongzhuang had the Eternal Azure Spirit pill formula. Coincidentally, I have a few Eternal Azure Spirit pills in my hands. Why don't you give them to the city lord? Perhaps he'll have an easier time? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with thoughts. This matter was all because of her. Personally, she did not want to cause any trouble for others. You have the Eternal Azure Spirit pill in your hands. Yang Qinshue cried out in surprise. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. I had wanted to give this pill to you before, but you refused. Refused? Refused? Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's casual and calm look, Yang Qinshue and Yang Lingfeng hated that they could not take a brick and knock themselves unconscious. They had actually refused such a precious and rare pill. Was there something wrong with their brains? They could not help but recall the few times Hongzhuang had wanted to give them the pill. However, They thought that it was too difficult for Hong Zhuang to refine the pill, so they had not accepted it. Until Hong Zhuang had given them the Immortal Establishment pill, because they really needed it, they did not refuse. However, it was only at this moment that they realized that the pills they had refused were so expensive. Bai Qingli looked at Yang Lingfeng and Yang Lingfeng's expressions and could not help but laugh. Refused the eternal azure spirit pill? If this news were to spread, everyone would think that these two had gone mad. Hong Zhuang, it's not easy for you to refine the pill. Yang Qinxue quickly recovered. Although she could not help but feel regret, she was more concerned. Let my father worry about it. It's just a little more effort. It's not a big deal. Bailey Hong Zhuang smiled faintly. These pills are not difficult to refine. I don't want to keep causing trouble for City Lord Yang. I feel uneasy. What's there to feel uneasy about? It's fine. Yang Ling said nonchalantly. Yang Lingfeng's, Yang and Yang's expressions, Bailey Hong Zhuang and the others were speechless. Was it really okay to trick his own father like this? Yes, Hong Zhuang. Yang Qinxue saw Bailey Hong Zhuang's stubbornness and couldn't stand it anymore. She couldn't help but say, actually, we all know how difficult it is for you to refine pills. Don't force yourself. Forced? Bailey Hong Zhuang was puzzled. I'm not forcing myself. Sigh. Yang Lingfeng sighed. Yang Lingfeng sighed. He understood that if he didn't expose this matter, it would be troublesome in the future. He said, we've already seen the failure rate of your alchemy. You should keep this alchemy pill that you've refined with great difficulty. With Hong Zhuang's terrible failure rate, who knew how many precious herbs she had to use to refine these pills, not to mention the effort. Chapter 6790. Bailey Hong Zhuang had never understood why Yang Qinxue and Xiao Lingfeng would always politely refuse her when it came to pills. They would even faintly reveal a pained expression. After all, she was an alchemist herself. It was far more convenient for her to refine pills than to purchase pills from other alchemists. In addition, she needed to refine pills to improve her alchemy skills. It was simply a piece of cake for her. However, the two's attitudes were simply too strange. It was only at this moment that she finally understood. It turned out that the two of them had only confirmed all of this after witnessing her terrifying failure rate. They thought that it was not easy for her to refine pills. During this period of time, in order to successfully use the blood demon crystal in pills, she had been exploring the process. She had consumed countless herbs, and her failure rate was also extremely terrifying. Recalling the scenes of her alchemy, she also understood why the two of them were so embarrassed. Bailey Hong Zhuang could not help but chuckle. Do you think that my failure rate is very shocking? Ahem, ahem. Yang Lingfeng was a little embarrassed. In the end, he nodded hesitantly and explained, the pills you refine are more effective. It's normal for your failure rate to be higher. This time, it was not only Bailey Hong Zhuang who laughed. Xiao He, Xiao Bai, and even Di Beichun had smiles on their faces. Looking at everyone's playful expressions, Yang Qinxue and Xiao Lingfeng were a little confused. What do you mean by this? Could it be that we've misunderstood? During this period of time, whenever they saw Hong Zhuang refine pills, she had not succeeded at all. This failure rate was no longer frightening. It was simply horrifying, all right? You've misunderstood. Bailey Hong Zhuang did not know whether to laugh or cry. My failure rate in refining pills is not so shocking. Master success rate in refining pills is extremely high. Unless it's some pills that have never been refined before, the success rate for ordinary pills is at least above 80%, if not 100%, Xiao He said proudly. Its master was a true genius alchemist. Her talent in alchemy was even praised by Granny Hua. How could she be the lousy alchemist they thought she was? Yang Qinxue was stunned. Then what we saw earlier, I happen to be studying how to add blood demon crystals into pills to improve the medicinal properties of the pills. Because I don't have much understanding in this area, I can only try by constantly refining pills. In the process of trying, the failure rate was naturally very shocking. The pill that I showed Grandmaster Ning before was something that I researched using these methods. As for the failure rate of my alchemy, it really isn't what you see. In the face of Bailey Hongzhuang's serious explanation, it was only at this moment that the siblings came to a sudden realization. It turned out that, when they encountered it, it was Hongzhuang who was researching and not seriously refining pills. Just the word research meant that it was destined to be a failure. It would not be easy to succeed. So we've been mistaken all along. Yang Lingfeng's lips twitched. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded and smiled like a peach blossom in March. Yes. Hearing this affirmative answer, the siblings looked at each other and couldn't help but wail in their hearts. Chapter 6791. The siblings couldn't help but wail, but when they thought about it carefully, Hongzhuang had already told them this before, but they had believed it was the truth, so they didn't want to believe it. Heavens, how did I make such a stupid decision? Yang Lingfeng slapped his forehead, thinking that there was no one in this world who was more stupid than him. It's better to know now than later. Bai Qingli's eyes were full of smiles. Yang Qinxue only felt that her IQ was in the negative, and with Bai Qingli's eyes, she couldn't help but want to find a hole to crawl into. Now you can give the Dan to Mayor Yang without any worries. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled lightly, like a blooming lily, elegant and enchanting. Yang Lingfeng looked at the pill and couldn't help but ask weakly, I don't know if it's useless for me to take back my previous refusal. It wasn't that he was useless, but this pill was just too precious. He was almost certain that if he told his father that he had rejected the eternal azure spirit pill, his father would probably slap him directly to the wall and call him a wastrel. It's useful, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled, but don't worry about the pills inside. When I have time, I'll refine some more and give them to you. Hongzhuang, you're simply a little fairy. Yang Lingfeng's eyes bloomed with a bright light. His excited appearance was as if he had seen a fairy from the ninth heaven, basking in her grace and bliss. Just as he couldn't help but stretch out his hands, he suddenly felt a burning gaze fall on his hands. When he looked, he found that Di Bei Chun was silently looking at his hands, which he had nowhere to put. He immediately withdrew his hand in embarrassment. This was completely an expression of his mood. Di Bei Chun saw Yang Lingfeng obediently stand back. Only then did he withdraw his gaze, his mind thinking that he couldn't let this news be alone with Hongzhuang in the future. Recently, he was becoming more and more unrestrained. Yang Qinxue couldn't help but laugh when she saw this. Compared to the somewhat eccentric little brother from before, this was his true temperament. It had been 5 whole years. His cheerful personality had finally returned. I'll go tell father now. Yang Lingfeng took the pills and walked towards Yang Han's residence. Presumably, his father already knew about the current situation and was having a headache. Since we can't go out, let's stay here and have good rest. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. She originally wanted to go to the market tomorrow, but now she could only wait to participate in the array master competition. Most importantly, she was worried that someone would not be able to restrain themselves from making a move against them after the array master competition was over. That would be the real trouble after they returned to Qingyang City. Although everyone had some doubts in their hearts, no one said anything. After all, the current situation was already troublesome enough, because this matter was related to the 2 grandmasters, Ning Tian and Shen Xing. The group from Qingyang City that had been treated as a joke had become the center of attention. Many people began to inquire about the identities of Di Bei Chun and Bailey Hongzhuang. They wanted to know if these 2 young people had any background. Chapter 6792. What kind of person was Ning Tian? What kind of person was Shen Xing? Anyone who had a certain level of understanding in this circle knew that neither Ning Tian nor Shen Xing liked to take advantage of others, let alone an unknown young man like Tang Weilin. The eternal azure spirit pill formula was indeed precious. This news indeed surprised everyone, but everyone knew the value of the Buddha gilded body pill. Even if the other party really gave it to him for free, Ning Tian wouldn't accept it, because with his reputation, a pill formula wasn't enough for him to ruin it. Moreover, this matter implicated Shen Xing. Compared to this, everyone was more curious about who these 2 young men were. It wasn't easy to make the two great masters regard them in a different light. The most important thing was that Shun Xing was willing to go against Zhang Gu Dao for the sake of Di Beichun. This matter revealed a lot of information and was worth thinking about. After Shan Duanyu released this news, he happily waited in his residence for news. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others wanted to fight him head-on. That was simply courting death. When the time came, he would use this matter to ruthlessly trample on the two great masters. Presumably, Master would also be able to vent his anger. However, he completely didn't expect Ning Tian's temper. After hearing this news, Shun Xing immediately went to find Ning Tian. He didn't know that there was such a deal between Ning Tian and Bailey Hongzhuang. Master Shun, Master has been staying in his room ever since he came back from the market. He even instructed us not to disturb him. This, Ning Tian's personal servant, looked at Shun Xing awkwardly. He was very clear that his master had a close relationship with Master Shun. However, his master had previously instructed not to disturb him, so he didn't dare to rashly report it. A trace of thought flashed across Shun Xing's eyes, and he quickly understood. Thinking about it, Ning Tian had been studying Bailey Hongzhuang's pill ever since he came back, so he hadn't even heard of such an important matter. It's fine. There's no rush. Since it had already happened, he might as well let it ferment. It wouldn't be a bad idea to let Ning Tian deal with it after everyone knew about it. In any case, this fellow had never been afraid of trouble. In the blink of an eye, it was already the next day. Sunlight shone into the house through the window, and the tiny bits of sunlight brought warmth to the room. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly opened her eyes. Her sleepy appearance was a bit confused. When she raised her eyes, she saw a handsome face that could almost light up the whole sky like it was daytime. His deep and charming eyes were even more dazzling than the sun. He's awake? The man's low chuckle could be heard. His warm and broad palm caressed her face, revealing his warm concern. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. She wanted to get up, but the man pulled her into his arms. Leaning against the man's warm chest, Bailey Hongzhuang took the opportunity to rest her head on his strong and powerful arms, and a faint smile bloomed on her face. This matter hasn't been resolved yet. There are still many people watching us from the outside. We won't be able to leave today, so there's no need to rush. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. You're right. Because of what happened yesterday, Qin Shui and the others were very worried. They also talked about it until very late last night. However, it was clear that there was no other way. Chapter 6793. Di Beichun hugged the little one in his arms. As soon as he lowered his head, he saw the little face that was deep in thought. Ripples also appeared in his deep black eyes. If they come with us, we'll disguise ourselves and leave Qingyang City. It's that simple? Bailey Hongzhuang thought carefully. You're right. If I don't go, we'll go. It's just that it wasn't easy for us to get to know Qin Shui and the others. It's a bit of a pity to have to leave so soon. Di Beichun noticed the trace of reluctance in Bailey Hongzhuang's mood. His large hand grasped her soft little hand, and he continued, the limelight is at its peak right now. As long as we disappear for a while, they'll disperse if they can't find us. If you don't want to leave, we can go back to the clan first. It won't be too late to come back after the limelight has passed. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. You're still the smart one. Even if they appeared in Qingyang City again, they would still attract the attention of some people, but that would only be a small portion of people. They definitely wouldn't be watched by so many people like they were now. After the two of them had finished tidying themselves up, they heard the noise downstairs as soon as they opened the door. They couldn't help but look at each other and gradually frown. It's because of these two guys that we can't even go to the bazaar now. It's already very troublesome that he offended Shan Duanyu. Yesterday, he even purposely showed off. Now, everyone's going to be implicated by him. Fan Guangshuan and the others were full of resentment. Ever since they knew that they were being watched by so many people, they had been complaining everywhere. Now, they could only stay here and couldn't go anywhere. They originally wanted to go to the bazaar and set up a stall to exchange for some things they needed. Now, they couldn't even participate in this rare bazaar. This trip was practically a waste of time. Yang Qingque's face grew darker and darker as she listened to Fan Guangshuan and the others speak more and more excessively. Have you said enough? Perhaps it was because they had never seen Yang Qingque angry before, but her sudden roar shocked Fan Guangshuan and the others. Can you guys stop complaining about others? Shen Duanyu isn't someone from Qingyang City. Beichen is our teammate, not to mention that Beichen wasn't responsible for what happened yesterday. If you like Shen Duanyu so much, then go and find him directly. Yang Qingque's face was filled with unspeakable anger. She was already in a very bad mood after such a thing happened. She didn't expect that these guys would continue to talk nonsense here. It really made her unhappy. Along the way, she had endured for a long time, but found that these guys did not stop at all. Fan Guangshuan and the others were stunned at first, and then their expressions became extremely ugly. After a while, Fan Guangshuan said, "Miss Yang, do you mean that we don't need to take your place in the competition?" "That's right, there's no need." It wasn't Yang Qingque who said this, but Yang Lingfeng. "It's fine if you don't want to participate. Hurry up and find your Shen Duanyu. If your heart isn't there, what's the point of keeping you alive?" As soon as these words came out, the expressions of Fan Guangshuan and the others suddenly changed. They had been talking about this without restraint because Yang Qingque and the others didn't blame them too much for this matter, so they had been very indifferent. Chapter 6794. If you want to stay, then don't say such meaningless nonsense. If you don't want to stay, we won't force you to stay. It's up to you. After Yang Qingque said this, she pulled Yang Lingfeng upstairs, obviously unwilling to say anything else about this matter. Bailey Hongzhuang and Deep Beichen stood at the top of the stairs until Yang Qingque and her brother came up. "Sister, wasn't what I said very domineering?" Yang Lingfeng raised his eyebrows, looking proud. "These guys are always nagging like girls. I'm really annoyed listening to them." Yang Qingque rolled her eyes. "You drove them all away, so this time only Beichun can participate in the competition. Isn't that what you mean?" "I'm just following your words." "You idiot." Yang Qingque was speechless. "They're indeed very annoying, but if we can't even gather enough people for this competition, then we'll also become a joke." She said those words earlier in the hope that these guys would have some idea of what to do and not keep talking about this matter. However, she didn't expect Yang Lingfeng to be so straightforward, directly driving these guys away, so she softened her tone at the end. "So that's not what you meant?" Yang Lingfeng belatedly understood. "Then what do we do now? What else can we do?" Yang Qingque spread out her hands. "Let them be. If they really want to leave, we can't do anything about it." Bailey Hongzhuang and Yang Lingfeng listened to this conversation, feeling helpless and amused at the same time. Qingque had such a straightforward brother. She must be feeling very helpless. "Sorry for the trouble." Yang Qingque saw Bailey Hongzhuang as soon as she walked upstairs, and she knew that they had probably heard what she said before, so she waved her hand. "It's fine. Actually, I don't think their array skills are as good as Beichen's. Anyway, we didn't get any good rankings in the previous array master competition. Even if they leave now, it won't affect the results. Maybe Beichen's results alone are better than all of them combined." Yang Lingfeng comforted himself. "You're right." Yang Qingque nodded, obviously agreeing with this point. In the afternoon, Fan Guangshuan left the group of Qingyang City. Before he left, his face was still filled with resentment. He looked at Di Beichun as if he wanted nothing more than to kill him directly. Yang Qingque did not try to stop him. Since they had already said so much, if they were to ask him to stay now, Fan Guangshuan would be extremely proud of himself. Rather than keeping such a person alive, it would be better to let him leave. However, to their surprise, Shihai did not leave. They had originally thought that with the relationship between Fan Guangshuan and Shihai, the two of them would definitely leave together. Little did they know that Fan Guangshuan was also very angry about this. He had fully believed that Shihai would leave with him, but he had never thought that Shihai would directly refuse his request. No matter how he tried to persuade him, it was useless. He really could not take this lying down, so he left on his own. "I really don't understand. There's no enmity between him and Beichun. Why does it seem like he's angrier than Shen Duanyu?" Chapter 6795. Ever since Di Beichen became a participant of Qingyang City, Fan Guangshuan had been making all sorts of sarcastic remarks and was extremely rude. In comparison, Beichen was the one who had been too lazy to pay attention to him. Who would have thought that this guy would become more and more disagreeable? Perhaps it's because Beichen ignored him that he's even angrier. Yang Lingfeng mused. Compared to hostility, this kind of disregard was even more hurtful. Bailey Hongzhuang. You do have a point. Ignore him. If he leaves, then leave. Save him the trouble of helping others. Yang Qinxuan narrowed her eyes. Everything else was fine, but she was more worried that this guy would become a spy for others. That would be the worst. Yang Han was also very calm after learning all this. Clearly, Yang Qinxue had already informed him of this before. Now that we're short of a spot, I'm afraid it'll be a bit troublesome. Yang Qinxue looked at Yang Han with a guilty conscience. Since it's already like this, then forget it. Yang Han was very open-minded. Right now, everyone's attention is on Beichen. Our Qingyang City rarely gets so much attention. It's not bad that we've become famous. Looking at Yang Han's casual appearance, everyone's mood immediately relaxed a lot. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other. Both of them knew that Yang Han actually hoped that Beichen could achieve good results in this array master competition. He didn't care about the number of people, only the results. As long as Beichen could achieve good results. So what if there were fewer people? He didn't say it out loud, presumably because he didn't want to put pressure on Beichen. Qingli, do you have any other array masters who can participate? Yang Qinxue turned her gaze to Bai Qingli. At present, they had no other place to ask for help other than Shi Yunqing. I'll have to go back and ask. Bai Qingli thought for a moment. They did have some array masters, but their array skills weren't outstanding. Most importantly, Qingyang City could be said to be the most eye-catching team right now. Many people probably wouldn't be willing to join. They couldn't force others on this point. Yang Han patted his shoulder. If you don't want to, then don't force it. It's no big deal. I'll do my best. When Ning Tian came out of the room, the servants immediately went up to her. Master Shin came to see you. He came to find me? What did he say? Ning Tian was surprised. Master Shun is in the next room. Something happened yesterday. I think Master Shun is here because of this. The servant was well informed. In fact, almost everyone knew about such a big matter. However, since Master Shun was here, there was no need for him to say anything. Hearing this, Ning Tian immediately went to the house next door. Why are you looking for me? You're finally out. A smile appeared on Shun Xing's face when she saw Ning Tian. You're in trouble this time. Trouble? Ning Tian was stunned. I haven't even stepped out of the house. What trouble could I have caused? You're fine by yourself, but those two little ones can't even leave the house because of you, Shun Xing said in a nonchalant manner. Ning Tian immediately understood. Are you talking about the two little fellows at the market? I heard that you and Bailey Girl exchanged for the Eternal Azure Spirit Pill. Chapter 6796. It must be that stinking brat under Zhang Gudao. Ning Tian narrowed his eyes, and a trace of anger spread in his heart. When they made the deal that day, there weren't many people paying attention. If it weren't for someone deliberately inquiring, it was impossible to know so much. And in the current situation, apart from Shun Duanyu, no one else would do so. I thought he'd stop after this incident, but now it seems that this brat really likes to cause trouble. Shun Xing paid attention to Ning Tian's expression and understood that this guy already had a plan in mind. He continued, Now everyone is saying that Bailey Girl used the Eternal Azure Spirit Pill's pill formula to bribe you, and I've been dragged into the water and accused of favoritism. What a joke. Ning Tian snorted coldly. Doesn't this mean that Jin Gudao has been wronged? He really dares to say anything. Now those two little guys don't leave the house, and many people are watching. If you don't deal with this matter properly, I won't let you go. Ning Tian looked at Shun Xing and understood that this guy completely regarded Di Beichen as one of his own, so he wouldn't allow him to suffer any grievances. Don't worry, I'll naturally deal with the trouble I caused. I'm going to teach that stinking brat a lesson today. Does he really think that Zheng Gudao can shelter him from the wind and rain? Inside the room, Bailey Hongzhuang was accompanying Di Beichen to study array formations. The competition was going to start the day after tomorrow, and Beichen was also happy to study at this time. The book that Grandmaster Shun gave him was very useful, and some of the introductions in it also enlightened him and benefited a lot. Right at this moment, a stranger appeared at their door. When they saw the newcomer, their bodies instantly tensed up, and they were ready to attack at any time. Young Master D, Miss Bailey, I'm Grandmaster Ning's servant. He asked me to invite you to the market. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly taken aback. In fact, they had always believed that Ning Tian couldn't be doing nothing, but they also felt a little strange that there hadn't been any movement for so long. Now, was Ning Tian finally making a move? Yang Qinxue and Yang Lingfeng also rushed over to join the fun. After knowing the purpose of their visit, they looked at the servant suspiciously. You're not deliberately tricking us, are you? With Beichen's current situation, if they went out now, they could be targeted at any time. The man chuckled. Even if I had the guts, I wouldn't dare to use Grandmaster Ning's name to swindle others. That's true. Yang Lingfeng nodded slightly. Grandmaster Ning's reputation was no joke. At this moment, Yang Han also came down from upstairs. When he saw the person in front of him, his eyes lit up. What orders does Grandmaster Ning have? Seeing that Yang Han had confirmed the identity of the person, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others did not doubt him and immediately followed the man to the market. I wonder why Grandmaster Ning called us over? Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but ask. The servant smiled politely. Master has never been someone who would let others suffer losses. He said that this matter was caused by him, so he probably wants to solve it in public. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. She was a little curious, not knowing how Grandmaster Ning planned to deal with it. Chapter 6797. The news of Bailey Hongzhuang bribing Ning Tian had been fermenting for a day, and had spread like wildfire throughout the small world. The Eternal Azure Spirit Pill was the pill that everyone paid attention to. Coupled with the fact that it was related to Master Ning Tian and Master Xinxing, it was impossible not to pay attention to it. Due to Ning Tian's personality, there were many people who had opinions about him. Now that something like this had happened, many people wanted to hit him while he was down and take the opportunity to smear his name. Don't be fooled by Ning Tian's sanctimonious appearance. Isn't he doing these little things behind the scenes? The reason why he usually ignores us is probably because he thinks that our gifts aren't good enough. What kind of treasure is the Eternal Azure Spirit Pill? TSK. This news has been out for so long, but there's still no news from Ning Tian. If he didn't have a guilty conscience, he would have come out to clarify things long ago. That's true. I really didn't expect this. When Ning Tian appeared, he heard the discussions around him, and his expression immediately darkened. He had already guessed that these guys wouldn't have anything good to say, but he didn't expect their words to be so unpleasant. The originally noisy scene immediately quieted down with Ning Tian's appearance. The people who were discussing this matter all shut their mouths and didn't dare to say anything else. They were only worried that it would anger Ning Tian. Ning Tian snorted coldly and swept his cold gaze across the crowd. His eyes were filled with disgust. All the cultivators who were swept by this gaze couldn't help but feel guilty. They all averted their gazes and pretended that this matter had nothing to do with them. Ning Tian walked directly to Shun Duanyu's stall. Go and find that stinking brat Shun Duanyu. The cultivators who were looking at the stall were stunned when they heard this. When they looked up and saw that the person who spoke was Ning Tian, they didn't dare to say anything else. They didn't care about the stall and hurriedly ran outside. They were done for. Master Ning had personally come to find trouble. This wasn't something that could be easily resolved. Xinxing looked at Ning Tian's ferocious appearance, and a faint smile appeared in his eyes. After Shen Duanyu was reprimanded by Zhang Gudao, he didn't go out again. This matter had already angered his master. Naturally, he did not dare to stir up any more trouble in such a situation. Once he made his master unhappy, he would be in a terrible situation. Right at this moment, a flustered voice sounded from outside. Duanyu, I'm afraid this is going to be troublesome. Looking at the panting man, Shun Duanyu's expression changed slightly. What happened? Great Master Ning Tian is looking for you at the market. He wants you to go there now. The man's face was full of worry. I'm afraid that Grandmaster Ning already knows what we've done. What should we do? Shin Duanyu's mind was in a mess for a moment. In fact, he also thought that this matter might be discovered, but he felt that this kind of thing would only make things worse. Even if Master Ning knew about it, he would be helpless. But he didn't think that Master Ning would come directly to him. Don't panic. Shin Duanyu forced himself to calm down. Although we were the ones who released the news, he doesn't have any concrete evidence. Even if it's proven that we were the ones who said it, we'll deny it no matter what. We'll just say that we complained, and there's nothing he can do about it. Chapter 6798. The originally anxious man calmed down a little when he heard Shin Duanyu's words. He nodded and said, "You're right. We're just complaining. It's someone else who spread our words. It has nothing to do with us. You have to deal with this matter properly. You must not implicate us," Shin Duanyu exhorted. The man immediately understood. "Don't worry. I'll make them bite this matter to death." Only then did Shin Duanyu relax. However, he did not head to the bazaar immediately. Instead, he went to look for Zheng Gudao. Facing Ning Tian, as a junior, he would be at a disadvantage no matter what. If the other party used force to bully him, he would be completely helpless. However, if Master went, then the situation would be different. Because of the previous incident, Zheng Gudao still did not like Shin Duanyu too much. After all, he had caused him to lose face. However, when he heard Shin Duanyu say that Ning Tian wanted to use this matter to make an issue out of it, Zheng Gudao's face was filled with rage. Ning Tian really doesn't know when to stop. Wasn't it enough that the matter had reached this stage previously? Now, because of such a small matter, he's mustering so many people to call you over. Could it be that he thinks I'm easy to bully? Zheng Gudao's face was ashen. In his rage, he stood up directly. His eyes were burning with rage, and his facial features were practically scrunched together. Shin Duanyu looked at Zheng Gudao's angry appearance and secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Only then did he completely relax. As long as he had Master's support, he did not need to worry too much. Let's go. Zheng Gudao's eyes were filled with a cold light. I'd like to see what Ning Tian wants to do. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others arrived, they found that they had become the focus of everyone's attention almost instantly. Everyone's eyes were filled with curiosity as they focused their attention on them. Bailey Hongzhuang looked forward and noticed the two great masters. In reality, the gazes of the people in the bazaar were either on them or on the two great masters. It was really too easy to distinguish. Ning Tian, whose face had been ashen all this while, as if everyone owed him money, finally smiled when he saw Bailey Hongzhuang and the others appear. "Come here." Ning Tian waved at them. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others immediately followed behind Yang Han. As soon as they arrived, Yang Han cupped his hands in greeting. "Grandmaster Ning, Grandmaster Shun." Ning Tian nodded slightly. "I still have some impression of you. You're the city lord of Qingyang City, right?" Yang Han was pleasantly surprised as he heard this. His smile suddenly became even more brilliant. "I never thought that Grandmaster Ning would remember me. I'm truly fortunate." Although he was a city lord, there were many cities in the chaotic immortal realm. It was an honor for Master Ning to remember him. "You have good taste." Ning Tian glanced at Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang, and her impression of Yang Han improved. Not only Ning Tian, but Shun Xing also had a good impression of him. Previously, they had already heard that although Di Beichen had come to participate in the competition, he had not even participated in the Array Formation Master Assessment. If it had been anyone else, Di Beichen would never have agreed to let him participate in the competition, but Yang Han did. Just this point alone was enough to show that he had a good eye for people. Chapter 6799. Please enter the text. Yang Han's words were very sincere. Setting aside the fact that Beichen and Hongzhuang were so outstanding, Hongzhuang had saved Lingfeng. Even if they didn't do anything here and cause trouble, he would still stand behind them unconditionally. A faint smile appeared on Shun Xing and Ning Tian's faces upon seeing Yang Han's expression. Grandmaster Ning, may I ask why you called us here? Bailey Hongzhuang slowly walked to Master Ning's side. In fact, she had already guessed that Master Ning had called them here to spread the rumor, but after she came, she found that Shun Duanyu was not here, which was a bit strange. What else could it be? It's obviously about that stinking brat slander. Ning Tian's face darkened. I just went into seclusion to study pills. I didn't think that brat would dare to slander me like this. Bailey Hongzhuang, Grandmaster, you should pay attention to your image. Ahem. Shun Xing coughed dryly as if to remind Ning Tian that they were in full view of everyone. However, Ning Tian didn't seem to receive his reminder at all. Her face was still filled with anger. I've already sent someone to find that stinking brat. He should be here soon. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others waited quietly. With their status, no matter how they tried to explain this matter, it would only make things worse. However, with Grandmaster Ning's appearance, the matter would be easier to resolve. I'm afraid Shun Duanyu is in trouble now. With two Grandmasters appearing together, I'm afraid he won't be able to stop them. Do you think Shun Duanyu is telling the truth or not? Looking at Grandmaster Ning's angry appearance, I don't think that's the case. Who knows? Shun Duanyu is Grandmaster Zhen's disciple. He shouldn't be able to speak without thinking, right? After this incident, no one, no matter if it was the stall owners or the customers, had any interest in buying or selling things. They were just waiting to watch the show. Fan Guangshuan didn't leave the small world after leaving the group in Qingyang City. At this moment, he was also waiting in a corner to watch the show. When he heard that everyone was guessing that Shun Duanyu was trying to frame him, he couldn't help but say, "This is the truth." Otherwise, how could two people with no background be treated so favorably by the great master? You know the inside story? The cultivator beside him looked at Fan Guangshuan curiously. He remembered that he had seen Fan Guangshuan with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others before. Don't be fooled by the fact that these two fellows don't have any background. They're extraordinarily good at scheming behind the scenes. The city lord of Qingyang City has already been completely grasped by them. Their methods of buying people's hearts are simply amazing. Fan Guangshuan's eyes were filled with malice. Before Di Baichen appeared, City Lord Yang and the others had always been extremely polite to him. As soon as this guy appeared, his status plummeted. Because of this fellow, regardless of whether it was the City Lord, Young Miss, or Young Master, their attitude towards him had greatly changed. Later on, they had even spoken to him in such a manner. He was unwilling to accept this. He had to see Di Baichen fall from grace before he could vent the resentment in his heart. I didn't think it would be like this. I saw that this woman had the appearance of a foxy fox. Looks like I was right. Isn't that right? Who knows if they've used any other methods? Fan Guangshuan sneered. Chapter 6800. Please enter the text. The moment Shun Duanyu appeared, everyone's gazes landed on him. However, when everyone noticed Zheng Gudao behind him, each and every one of their expressions became interesting. With the three masters gathered together, the following excitement would probably be unprecedentedly exciting. When Ning Tian noticed the two people walking over, a trace of coldness appeared in her eyes. Zheng Gudao, this guy is really protective of his children, rushing over so quickly. He's always been like this. A trace of coldness also appeared in the eyes of the usually amiable Shun Xing when he saw that figure. His deep eyes became unfathomable, with a faint storm sweeping through. Zheng Gudao brought Shun Duanyu to a stop in front of Ning Tian. The moment he opened his mouth, his tone was not polite at all. Ning Tian, why are you looking for my disciple? Seeing that the other party still dared to denounce her at a time like this, Ning Tian also sneered. Why am I looking for your disciple? Why don't you ask him what he did? Don't give me that. The previous matter has already been resolved. If you want to announce it to the world, it's up to you. If you still want to cause trouble because of this matter, I won't just stand by and watch. Zheng Gudao's aura was tyrannical. The previous matter had caused him to suffer a loss, and he had not been able to calm down for 2 consecutive days. Now that this guy was looking for trouble again, he naturally would not continue to be in the wrong. Don't pretend to be sanctimonious. Ning Tian lazily threw out a sentence. Facing the righteous and outspoken Zheng Gudao, she directly gave him a pretentious evaluation. It was just a simple word, but it immediately caused Zheng Gudao to break down. What am I pretending to be? You know very well in your heart. Ning Tian's face was full of disdain. You didn't succeed in slandering yourself, so you want to trap all of us. Why don't you think about how big your face is? Are you worthy? Are you worthy? The provocative words, coupled with Ning Tian's extremely arrogant expression, were simply destructive. Zheng Gudao's face alternated between green and white. His chest rapidly rose and fell due to his anger, as if he had countless words to refute, but for a moment he did not know what to say. This kind of feeling was similar to a scholar meeting a soldier, unable to reason with him clearly. Grandmaster Ning, is his personality usually so fiery? Bailey Hongzhuang turned her head to look at Yang Qinxue. Although she had already expected that Master Ning wouldn't be so kind after encountering such a situation, but this kind of explosive power, it really didn't seem like something a master would do. Not to mention that Zheng Gudao couldn't win against Ning Tian. Even if Shen Xing and Zheng Gudao worked together, their combat strength still couldn't compare to Ning Tian. Yang Qinxue's lips twitched as she said, "This is probably what they mean by those who have nothing to lose are not afraid of those who wear shoes." Zheng Gudao still cared about his status as a grandmaster in front of everyone. So even though his words were filled with anger, they were always reasonable and not too excessive. But Ning Tian clearly didn't fall into this category. He didn't care about this at all. But this personality, I quite like it. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. She could already see the characteristics of such a master's personality when she exchanged with him earlier. Ning Tian, don't go too far. Zheng Gudao was unable to restrain his rage and simply almost fainted from this anger. Chapter 68:01. Please enter the text. I've provoked you. Zheng Gudao was about to die from anger. From beginning to end, this entire matter had nothing to do with Ning Tian. All right? Now, Shen Xing was simply the one who stood out. You've already dealt with the previous matter, and now you're looking for my disciple to settle scores. You're the unreasonable ones. At the same time, Shen Duanyu's face was pale, and his expression was full of worry. I've already apologized for the previous matter, and I definitely won't accuse others so easily in the future. Isn't that enough? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. Shen Duanyu, this brat, was quite good at retreating in order to advance. Unfortunately, if this kind of play was used against Shen Xing, there might be some possibility, but against Ning Tian, stop pretending, you stinking brat. A man still has the nerve to pretend to be wronged. I simply want to beat you up. Ning Tian's face was full of disgust. Shen Duanyu was completely dumbfounded. He had already decided to come today to pretend to be innocent. No matter what the other party said, he just had to deny it to death. But this Master Ning's personality wasn't a little too strange. The matter that day has already been investigated clearly. There's nothing wrong with D. Baichen's Array Stone. The reason we didn't directly drive you out of the Array Masters Association is already showing mercy to your subordinates, but you're still not satisfied. You actually said that Shen Xing and I took bribes to help them target you. Ning Tian sneered. Who do you think you are? With my status, do I need to target a small fry like you? As Ning Tian's voice fell, Zheng Gudao's expression also changed a little. So Ning Tian didn't call Shen Duanyu back today for the previous matter, but for another matter? Shen Duanyu's expression changed slightly. This matter has nothing to do with me. Zheng Gudao, your disciple is truly incredible. Ning Tian raised his eyebrows and sneered. You still refuse to admit it at such a time. Ning Tian, don't speak nonsense without evidence. What evidence do you have to prove that this matter was leaked by Duanyu? If I say it's him, then it's him. Do I need evidence? Ning Tian said disdainfully. You, simply unreasonable. Zheng Gudao was furious. This was the reason why he was usually unwilling to provoke this guy. Because this guy was completely unreasonable. No matter what he said, he couldn't win against him. Instead, he was angering himself to death. At this moment, Shun Xing also spoke up. Originally, that matter had already been resolved, but this news was later released, saying that Ning Tian had accepted a bribe from Bailey Hongzhuang and was trying to frame us. Anyone with a brain would be able to figure out who was the one who had spread the news. It doesn't really matter whether you admit it or not. Shun Xing's expression was calm and composed, as if this matter had nothing to do with him at all. However, it was that calm tone that made the final decision, directly concluding that this matter was related to Shen Duanyu. Zhen Gudao slowly glanced at Shen Duanyu. Although he originally didn't know about this matter, based on his understanding of Shen Duanyu, it was very likely that he was the culprit. This guy was simply an idiot. Not only had he wronged Di Beichun, but he had also wronged the two masters. Even a fool would know that the consequences were not something he could bear. Chapter 68:02. Please enter the text. If I had to protect one person just because of a pill formula, then I don't know how many people I would have to protect all these years. Ning Tian's sharp gaze seemed to be able to see through one's soul. Under such a gaze, Shen Duanyu could only lower his head. This feeling of having nowhere to hide caused him to break down. He had originally made up his mind to deny it, but in this kind of situation, it seemed so meaningless. This was the difference in the background of the two sides. The other party was a grandmaster. No matter what he said, it would seem to be true, while all his explanations would seem to be just sophistry. Since you like to say that I'm protecting them so much, then fine. Ning Tian's voice paused slightly. Everyone also looked at him in confusion, not understanding what he meant by this. Then I'll do as you wish. Everyone, listen up. Di Beichun and Bailey Hongzhuang are my people from now on. If anyone dares to have any ideas about them, then they're going against me. I can ignore the previous stalking and following, but if something like this happens again in the future, I'll let him know what the price is. Ning Tian's voice was not very loud, but these words carried an unparalleled, domineering aura when they came out of his mouth. Everyone could even feel a dense, murderous aura. The cultivators who had been thinking about how to snatch the pill formulas from Bailey Hongzhuang's hands almost instantly gave up on that idea, because the price of offending Ning Tian was far greater than the value of the two pill formulas. Shen Duanyu raised his head in shock. The reason he had released this news was to let everyone target Di Beichun and Shen Duanyu. As for involving Ning Tian, on one hand, he wanted to vent his anger for himself. On the other hand, he wanted to make his master happier. However, he had never thought that his actions would instead help Bailey Hongzhuang and Shen Duanyu find a backer. Although Ning Tian was usually not very outstanding, and everyone usually knew more about Shun Xing and Zhen Gudao, those who knew more about them knew that Ning Tian was the most difficult person to provoke among the three of them. Not only was he a formation master, but he was also an alchemist. In addition, it was said that his background was also unfathomable. It was precisely because of this that his personality was so eccentric, but no one dared to offend him. Now that Ning Tian had said something like that in front of everyone, it was obvious that she was determined to protect Di Beichun. Fan Guanshuan had been waiting for a good show. He did not believe that the two masters would really protect Di Beichun. However, when he heard these words, his expression instantly became extremely ugly, as if he had eaten mustard. Since Ning Tian had said so in front of everyone, there was no way she could change her mind. Di Beichun had only come to the market to set up a stall, and he had gained such a strong backing. What kind of luck was this? When Shihai and the others saw this scene, they could not help but feel shocked. Fortunately, he did not leave with Fan Guanshuan. From the previous point of view, Di Beichun's status was simply not comparable to Shen Duanyu's, but after Master Ning's words, the situation was completely different. Di Beichun and Shen Duanyu's status had changed. Their status had clearly surpassed Shen Duanyu's. Furthermore, from Ning Tian's performance, he was much more protective than Zhen Gudao. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun looked at each other. This situation had clearly exceeded their expectations. They never thought that it would be resolved like this. Chapter 68:03. Because Ning Tian's words were too intimidating and effective, the entire bazaar fell into a strange silence. What followed was the exclamations of the crowd. Burning gazes fell on Di Beichen and Ning Tian, thinking that these two fellows' luck was too good. Normally, they would try their best to establish a relationship with these two masters, but it was completely useless. These two fellows had only come to the Formation Master competition for the first time, and they had already become Master Ning's direct disciples. This speed was really amazing. However, everyone's gazes fell on Shen Duanyu. This whole thing really couldn't have been separated from his assistants. If it weren't for Shen Duanyu, Di Beichen and Ning Tian would have only met once and had some impression of Ning Tian. However, because of this pill formula, everyone was staring at Di Beichen and Ning Tian. If Ning Tian hadn't stood up, they probably wouldn't have been able to keep their lives. Now that Ning Tian had stood up, the effect was really enviable. Shen Duanyu's face was pale at first, but when he realized what all this meant, his face had already become deathly pale. He simply couldn't understand how this perfectly fine matter had turned out like this. It was completely different from what he had imagined. Ning Tian's gaze turned to Zhengu Dao, and he said, "Don't say that I didn't give you face. If it weren't for you, this brat would have disappeared from this world long ago." He turned to look at the pale-faced Shen Duanyu and said, "It's useless to play these tricks in front of me. If you have the ability, then show it openly. I've stayed in the chaotic immortal realm for so many years, and I've never seen anyone who could rely on these little tricks to ascend." Ning Tian only felt that this gaze was directly stabbing into his spine, and his body was somewhat unsteady. This time, he had really done all this for nothing. What you do is your business. Let's go. Zhengu Dao's face was cold. Due to Ning Tian's background, he couldn't directly attack Ning Tian. Continuing to stand here was nothing but a joke. It was better to just leave. Shen Duanyu hurriedly followed behind Zhengu Dao and left. Even after they had walked far away, he still felt that the gaze behind him hadn't dissipated. Yang Qinxue and the others all smiled at the same time. It was a blessing in disguise, wasn't it? Yesterday, they were still extremely worried about whether or not they would be ambushed on the road. They didn't expect the situation to be completely reversed today. Even if everyone knew that this pill formula was in their hands, the average person would not dare to take the risk to find trouble. It was good to lean against a big tree and enjoy the shade. This kind of thing was the same no matter where. Many thanks to Grandmaster Ning for helping us out. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen thanked him. Ning Tian waved his hand. This whole thing started because of me. I thought those guys would keep their mouths shut, but I didn't expect them to be a bunch of useless people. Bailey Hongzhuang finally understood that Ning Tian's way of explaining the situation was to confirm her claim. When most people encountered such a situation, they would think about how to explain the situation clearly. However, Ning Tianze was completely different. His attitude was that this was how it was, and what could they do about it? However, it had to be said that the effect of this kind of solution was indeed extraordinary. Shan Xing smiled and said, "Don't worry. Although this guy's words aren't very nice, his words are still very useful." Chapter 6804. Thank you, Grandmaster Shen. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Even she felt that their luck was extraordinarily good. Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang are incredible. In the blink of an eye, they have two Grandmasters backing them. Won't Di Beichen have a meteoric rise in the ranks of array masters in the future? I just remembered that I know Qingyang City's Shihai. I have to find a way to make friends with him. Qingyang City is in the limelight this time. They haven't had any achievements in array formations for so many years. Now that they've finally achieved something, they'll be incredible in the future. At that moment, everyone understood that even if Qingyang City couldn't achieve anything in the competition this time, they definitely wouldn't be last place like before. Most of the time, it was this one thing that could change everything. Fan Guangshuan stood in place in a daze and couldn't help but regret his decision to leave. If he hadn't left, he would have been the target of everyone's flattery, but now, it was like a joke. Why hadn't Shihai left? At that moment, Fan Guangshuan suddenly realized that he was the one who had suffered the most from the beginning. Bailey Lass, I've studied your pill after I went back. Did you increase the effect of the pill after adding the blood demon crystal? After dealing with the matter, Ning Tian's interest was piqued. He'd been studying the pill since he'd returned yesterday, so he was very clear about its composition. However, knowing the composition and refining it were two different things. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. That's right. Blood demon crystals actually have such an effect. It's really surprising. Ning Tian's eyes were filled with interest. I've heard of people trying to use blood demon crystals to refine elixirs. However, the elixirs they refined were not as effective as yours. Furthermore, there were very few types of elixirs. I saw that they had only achieved this result after tinkering for so long, so I didn't pay too much attention to it. However, whether it is the type or the medicinal effect of your pill is different from theirs. Does this mean that this method will work on other pills? At this point, not only Ning Tian, but even Shun Xing's eyes were filled with anticipation. Indeed, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. I have tried to refine several kinds of pills. As long as the blood demon crystal is chosen correctly and the refining method is right, it will succeed. Is that so? Ning Tian's eyes lit up. This was a huge discovery in alchemy. The refining method is, just as Bailey Hongzhuang was about to tell Ning Tian the method, the latter suddenly raised her hand. Don't tell me. Let me figure out myself. It's not easy to come across something interesting. Naturally, I have to do some research on my own. Ning Tian smiled. Normally, I'm a little bored. You don't have to worry about it. He's always liked to research things on his own, Shun Xing said with a faint smile. If you tell him directly, he'll find it boring. Bailey Hongzhuang. Ning Tian was a master who never played by the rules. The competition is going to begin the day after tomorrow. Are you ready? Shun Xing turned to Di Beichen. I'm going to do my best, Di Beichen replied. Shun Xing nodded. With your power of understanding, as long as you spend some time researching, your results will definitely not be bad. Chapter 6805. Taking advantage of the time when the market was being held, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen bought a lot of things that they needed. Although Yang Han had given away the Eternal Azure Spirit Pill as a favor, he had not given it away for free. He had received money for it. As for the money, it naturally fell into the pockets of the two of them. The Eternal Azure Spirit Pill had been lost for many years, and there was no market for it at auctions. Thus, its price was naturally extremely high. Aside from the blood spirit stones that they needed for their daily cultivation, the two of them had practically used all of their blood spirit stones to buy this kind of resource. After Zhen Gudao returned, he once again gave Shun Duanyu a torrent of abuse. It was precisely because he knew that Ning Tian was a stubborn person that he had previously warned Shun Duanyu not to cause any more trouble. However, he had not expected that this brat would actually use such a move. If this kind of move was used against other people, the effect would not be bad, but against Ning Tian, it was completely useless, because that guy had never cared about these things from the beginning to the end. When it came to trying to cover up something, the more you try to cover it up, the more you try to cover it up. He would often directly blacken the matter to the extreme so that others would no longer have any other reason to continue blackening it. Now, what I'm saying is completely meaningless to you, is it? Zhen Gudao looked at Shun Duanyu with a gloomy expression. Although he had been very unyielding in today's matter and had not admitted it from the beginning to the end, after Ning Tian's words, whether he said it or not seemed to have already become meaningless. Everyone had already firmly believed all of this. Shun Duanyu's face was pale. He also understood how angry this matter had made his master. How could he have thought that things would actually turn out like this in the end? Master, I won't dare to do it again. Shun Duanyu lowered his head, his face full of guilt. He understood that in this kind of situation, there's already no meaning in denying it to death. Instead, it would make his master loathe him even more. This time, he had really suffered a double loss. After being thwarted twice in a row, it was practically impossible to win against his senior brother. I did this because I wanted to vent Master's anger, but I didn't think that Master Ning would... You didn't think? What can you think of? Before Shun Duanyu could finish speaking, Zhen Gudao had already roared out. I've already warned you repeatedly not to cause any more trouble. At this critical juncture, you've caused this kind of trouble time and time again. Now, everyone already knows about the foolish things you've done, and even I have become a joke. Zhen Gudao was like an enraged lion, no longer having his usual image of an expert. Shen Duanyu looked at Zhen Gudao in astonishment. This was his first time seeing his master throw such a huge tantrum. "Master, I really won't dare to do it again," Shen Duanyu said in a panic. For some reason, he had an ominous premonition. This feeling made him panic for no reason, and his heart turned cold. Indeed, there won't be a next time. Zhen Gudao calmed down somewhat, his gaze becoming resolute. Shen Duanyu looked up in astonishment. "Master, what do you mean? From today onwards, you are no longer my disciple." Zhen Gudao's expression was indifferent, and his cold voice did not contain the slightest bit of warmth. All of the master-disciple relationship had already dissipated like smoke in his eyes at this moment. After Shen Duanyu heard these words, it was as if he had been struck by lightning. He looked at Zhen Gudao in disbelief. For a moment, he only thought that he must have heard wrongly. Chapter 68:06. I've made up my mind. You can move out of here today. Zhen Gudao's expression was icy cold, without the slightest hint of affection. When he had taken Shen Duanyu in as a disciple, he had only felt that Shen Duanyu was intelligent and pleasing to the eye in every aspect. Now that something like this had happened, he only felt that Shen Duanyu was displeasing to the eye everywhere. He simply could not understand why he had chosen him back then. Shen Duanyu knelt down with a plop. "Master, this disciple will never dare to do it again. Please forgive this disciple. No matter what Master says in the future, this disciple will obey without question. I will never. There's no need to say anything more. You can leave." Zhen Gudao waved his hand impatiently. Even looking at Shen Duanyu for an extra second was irritating. The next moment, he strode out of the room. Standing in front of the door, his voice rang out once more. "Leave this place before today." After saying this, Zhen Gudao left without looking back. Shen Duanyu sat on the ground with his legs limp. Everything that had happened today made him feel like he had fallen into a dream. Master had actually given up on him. How was he any different from before, when he had lost this identity? "Duanyu, are you all right?" The man who had been following Shen Duanyu quickly rushed over when he saw Zhen Gudao leave in a huff. As soon as he entered, he saw the soulless Shen Duanyu, and his heart was filled with worry. "I'm finished," Shen Duanyu murmured, his eyes completely dim, like a puppet that had lost its soul. After Bailey Hongzhuang and the others returned to their residence, they had been waiting for news from Bai Qingli. There were currently only 2 of the 3 spots for the competition. If it was possible, it would be best if they could get another one. However, Bai Qingli had already asked the formation masters over there and helplessly found that no one could help out in the competition. Why don't I go back and ask again? After the masters make this announcement tomorrow, there should be more people who are willing to take part in the competition. A thoughtful look flickered in Bai Qingli's eyes. Previously, with Qingyang City's situation, the majority of people were unwilling to join, but now that Qingyang City had become the honored guests of the 2 masters, the situation was completely different. Normally, many people wanted to establish a relationship with the 2 masters, but it was harder than ascending to the heavens. Now, joining Qingyang City's team was undoubtedly the best method. As long as this news was released now, not to mention the formation masters in their city, even the formation masters in other cities would take part. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Now that the environment is completely different, I believe it won't be a problem. Such was the situation. Chapter 68:07. As Yang Han's voice fell, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other and felt that what he said was very reasonable. If it were any other day, it would be extremely difficult to find an array master to participate in the competition. If the news were to spread now, it was likely that some of the more powerful array masters would come. This matter might not be a big deal to them, but if it made the 2 masters unhappy, it would not be worth it. Anyway, No matter what the result was this time, they were already famous. Uncle is right. It is indeed not suitable to do this now. Bai Qingli replied. Then we might as well participate in the competition with 2 people. Yang Lingfeng agreed. In fact, he was also unwilling to recruit others from the bottom of his heart. This kind of hypocrisy makes me feel annoyed just by looking at it. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. This kind of thing was a matter of Qingyang City. The city lord could make the decision, and they had no objections. Then it's decided. Yang Han smiled. This time, he no longer cared about the results of the competition, because just getting to know the 2 masters was already very worth it. At this moment, Di Beichun suddenly said, if that's the case, why don't we let Hong Zhuang participate? As soon as these words came out, everyone was stunned. They looked at Di Beichun in astonishment, their minds a little muddled. Yang Lingfeng was dumbfounded. You're saying to let Hong Zhuang participate? But she's an alchemist. Yang Qinxue was also puzzled. Could it be that Hong Zhuang knows array techniques? Bai Qingli's reaction was slightly better than the 2 of them, but her face was still full of doubt. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichun in confusion. She did not expect him to make such a suggestion. Hong Zhuang has also learned array techniques, but her main focus is not in this area. Di Beichun explained slowly. His deep black eyes were like the ocean at night, carrying a little ripple. Since we're short of a place, and we're not willing to find one from outside, why don't we let her try, as a kind of experience? I'm afraid I can't do that. Bailey Hongzhuang was a little embarrassed. When Beichun was learning array techniques, she had also been learning from him. However, just as he said, she spent most of her time studying alchemy. Her skill in alchemy was obviously incomparable to Beichun's. You know a lot of array formations, and the real effects you create aren't bad. Di Beichun's eyes were gentle. Haven't you always been interested in it? After hearing all this, Yang Han had no choice but to reveal a deep smile in his eyes. I didn't expect Hong Zhuang to also know array techniques. Since that's the case, you'll take this spot in the competition. No matter how good your array techniques are, as long as you have the certificate, it's fine. Anyway, the empty spot is empty. When the final ranking of the city is calculated, the total score will be taken into account. It's better to participate than not. As long as you participate, your score will be higher. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang also fell into hesitation. She did not expect that the final ranking of the city would be calculated based on the total score. Hongzhuang, if you're interested, you could try it out. Anyway, everyone knows that you're an alchemist. Even if you don't perform well, it doesn't matter. Yang Qinxue said. In this kind of situation, everyone would at most laugh at their city for not having an array master. They would not be too harsh on Hongzhuang. Chapter 6808. If you don't want to participate, then forget it. Di Beichun lowered his head and said gently. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her head and looked at the man's tilted head. His beautiful eyes were like thousands of pear blossoms, filled with endless warmth. She had always understood that Beichun had never wanted to force her. He had only suggested this because she was also interested in array techniques. Apart from refining pills, she would spend the rest of her time studying array techniques with Beichun, just like how Beichun would sometimes study pill refining with her. Beichun is right. Hongzhuang, don't feel pressured. This isn't a big deal in the first place. Yang Lingfeng spread out his hands. Our city has always been at the bottom of the rankings. No matter how bad it is, it can't be any worse than before. Yang Han silently glanced at his son. This guy really didn't give him any face when he spoke. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly raised her head, the corners of her lips slightly raised. All right, then. You agree? Yang Lingfeng asked excitedly. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. I just hope that you won't be sad when my skills fall short. Don't worry. That won't happen. Yang Lingfeng waved his hand casually. In the blink of an eye, the array master competition finally began. On this day, Di Beichun and the others had already gotten up early and followed Yang Han to the location of the competition. Ever since Ning Tian had made the announcement in front of everyone, the door to Qingyang City's residence had been practically broken open. Many people came to visit City Lord Yang every day, trying to befriend Di Beichen and Yang Lingfeng as well. Almost everyone living in the residence had become a hot commodity in everyone's eyes. It was worth mentioning that after this change, they also noticed Fan Guangshuan's figure loitering near the residence. They could see his regret from the hesitation on his face, but no one paid him any attention. For a fence-sitter like him, even if he was allowed to blend in, his nature would not change in the future. It would only happen again. I've already changed the contestant's name card. Hong Zhuang's name card has already been handed over. A smile appeared on Yang Han's face. Changing contestants also required a process. If it was in the past, he would definitely encounter many obstacles when doing such a thing. However, when he went to handle this matter yesterday, he found that the situation was completely different from usual. Everything was unusually smooth, and there was almost no need for him to do anything. The matter had already been resolved. City Lord Yang, do you know how the competition will proceed? Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but ask. Originally, she wasn't too worried about this because Beichen's strength was unquestionable. Now that she was going to participate in the competition, she couldn't help but feel a little nervous. Although the rules of the competition are different every time, there are generally two types of rules. Usually, all the arrays are made of the same type of array stone, and then the score will be judged based on the quality of the array stone. Then will the grade of the array stone be high? Bailey Hongzhuang asked curiously. Her array skills were a level lower than Beichen's, so if she wanted to make a high-grade array stone, wouldn't it be terrible if she wasn't skilled enough? Chapter 6809. As the group of people arrived at the competition venue, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but be shocked as she looked at the huge stage in front of her. The area of the martial arts stage was far larger than they had imagined. At this moment, the circular spectator stands around the martial arts stage were already filled with people. Their appearance was like a drop in the ocean, so small that they couldn't cause any ripples. Master, I seem to have underestimated the scale of the competition. Xiaohei looked around. Under such circumstances, standing on the stage would attract the attention of thousands of people. There are many cities in the chaotic immortal realm. The number of participants in the competition must be very shocking. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were dark and gloomy. Such a big event was like a huge stage. It was extremely difficult to get a ranking here. However, they had obviously underestimated their influence. When the group from Qingyang City appeared, quite a few people noticed their existence. Everything that had happened in the past few days had already spread like wildfire. Even those who were not well informed had heard a little bit of it, so one could imagine the effect it had on them. Brother Yang, over here. Bai Ziwan waved at Yang Han from the high platform not far away. The empty seats beside him were obviously reserved for them. Yang Han smiled faintly and led the group over. You guys are in the limelight this time. As soon as they arrived, Bai Ziwan's voice filled with emotion rang out. This is all thanks to Beichen and Hong Zhuang. I'm just taking advantage of the limelight. Yang Han spread out his hands. In fact, all of this had nothing to do with him. It was all because of the two little guys. Bai Ziyuan's eyes were full of envy. He also wanted to make friends with the two masters. However, there were too many people trying to find ways to make friends with them. It was very difficult for him to show his face in front of the two masters. Yang Han didn't need to say anything. When he thought back to when Beichun wanted to participate in the competition, he couldn't help but regret it. If he had known this would happen, he would have let Beichun participate even if he had to give up all the spots. Unfortunately, he could only keep this gloominess in his heart. However, it was still very good that Beichen was representing Qingyang City in the competition. All right, look over there. Bai Ziwan raised his eyebrows and gestured at the spectator stand diagonally opposite. Everyone looked in that direction and discovered that Zheng Gudao was currently on that viewing platform. However, the people standing beside him were all people they did not recognize, and there was no sign of Shen Duanyu. What's going on? Yang Lingfeng was a little puzzled. Could it be that Shen Duanyu's punishment was so severe that he didn't want to participate this time? I don't think so. His mastery of formations is quite good. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been accepted as a disciple by Grandmaster Jin. Yang Qinshu said hesitantly. Bai Ziwan chuckled and looked to the other side. Shen Duanyu is over there. Di Beichun turned his gaze and discovered that Shen Duanyu was at a place rather far away from Jinggu Dao, and that hateful gaze of Shen Duanyu's landed on him. Casually glancing over, Di Beichun calmly shifted his line of sight. This guy's anger did not affect him in the slightest. Chapter 68:10. It's already like this. Don't tell me you still can't guess. Shen Duanyu is no longer a disciple of Jinggu Dao? Yang Han asked. Bai Ziwan nodded slightly. It is said that after Grandmaster Ning caused such a ruckus, Jinggu Dao directly expelled Shen Duanyu from the sect. Although this news was covered up by them, there is no such thing as an airtight wall, so it inevitably spread. Shen Duanyu is usually so arrogant because he climbed up this big tree, Jinggu Dao. Now that he no longer has this backing, with his usual arrogant appearance, I'm afraid he will have a lot of trouble. Bai Qingli's tone was cold and indifferent. The reason why he had fallen to such a state was all because he had walked step by step. Serve him right. Xiao Bai sneered, his face full of joy. At this moment, a voice sounded from behind them. Brother Yang, the effect of your eternal azure spirit pill is really excellent. Everyone turned their heads and saw a familiar figure. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others did not know this person, but they knew that this person had appeared in their residence before. City Lord Lu, what a coincidence. Lu Yifan looked at Yang Han with a smile. I came here today to thank you. Thank you? Yang Han was a little puzzled. Lu Yifan nodded slightly, unable to hide the excitement on his face. I've been trapped in this realm for a long time, unable to find a threshold to break through. But who would have thought that after taking this eternal azure spirit pill, I actually faintly felt the existence of a bottleneck. As soon as these words came out, Yang Han and the others were dumbfounded. As city lords, their strength was actually not much different. For so many years, not only Lu Yifan, but all of them had never slacked off in their cultivation, but wanted to take another step forward was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Their origin chi was constantly gathering, but their dantian was like a river that flowed into the sea. There was no day when it was filled. However, Lu Yifan had actually touched a bottleneck, which meant that there was hope for him to break through. Then I really must congratulate City Lord Lu. Yang Han cupped his hands in congratulations, but he could not help feeling envious. For them, even a trace of an opportunity to break through was incomparably precious. This is all thanks to City Lord Yang's generosity. Otherwise, I don't know when I would have the chance to touch peace. Lu Yifan smiled proudly. If you need this Lu's help in the future, just say the word, and this Lu will do his best. City Lord Lu, you're too polite. Actually, I'm just doing you a favor. This medicinal pill was refined by Miss Bailey. Yang Han gestured to Bailey Hongzhuang, who was beside him. He could not take the credit for such a big contribution. Moreover, he had already noticed that from the moment Lu Yifan appeared, his gaze had fallen on Hongzhuang from time to time. Lu Yifan's eyes lit up as he heard this. So this is Miss Bailey. Since ancient times, heroes have always come from the young. For Miss Bailey to have such achievements at such a young age, it's no wonder that she won the favor of Grandmaster Ning. Mayor Lu, you flatter me. Bailey Hongzhuang cupped her hands and said, I really have to thank you for this medicinal pill. If you have time in the future, you must come to our Ninghua city as a guest. Lu Yifan sincerely invited. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Many thanks for City Lord Lu's kindness. If there is a chance, we will definitely come. Chapter 68:11. Only after Lu Yifan left did Bailey Hongzhuang and the others take their seats. Hongzhuang, Brother Yang sold all of your eternal azure spirit pills to the other city lords. I didn't even have the time to buy them. If you still have them, you have to leave one for me. My price will definitely not be lower than anyone else's. No, I can offer a higher price. Bai Ziyuan looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with an extremely serious expression. When he first heard the news, he wanted to buy one, but when he thought about how terrible Qingyang City's situation was at that time, he couldn't help but think about it. Selling the eternal azure spirit pills at a time like this was also to build a good relationship with the other cities. Naturally, he couldn't buy them at a time like this. Originally, He thought that once he had the chance, he would definitely mention this matter to Bailey Hongzhuang. Now that Lu Yifan said this, he was even more eager. He had been stuck in this realm for too long. If the eternal Azure Spirit Pills could help Lu Yifan reach the threshold, perhaps it could also help him reach this step. Yang Han's eyes were also burning with passion. The effects of this pill seemed to be better than they thought. Seeing how serious Bai Ziyuan was, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded and said, "City Lord Bai, don't worry. Once I go back and refine the eternal Azure Spirit Pills, it will be fine. Originally, I only had a few eternal Azure Spirit Pills, but due to the situation, I gave them to City Lord Yang. After coming to this small world, I've been quite busy, so I can't take care of these things for the time being. As long as I have time, I will do it as soon as possible." Bailey Hongzhuang's face was filled with a gentle smile. She was very clear about the effects of this pill. The longer a cultivator cultivated, the better the effects would be. Once their yuan qi became pure, their strength would increase. Hearing this, Bai Ziyuan was relieved and his eyes were filled with gratitude. "Then I'll thank you in advance. City Lord Bai, there's no need to be so polite." On the high platform, the leader of the city lords, Qin Jian, had already appeared. "Welcome everyone to the decennial Array Master Competition. I am Qin Jian." As soon as Qin Jian spoke, the originally bustling spectator stands immediately fell silent. Numerous gazes looked towards Qin Jian in unison. This year's Array Formation Competition will be presided over by me and 5 other Array Formation Grandmasters. In a fair and just manner, we will select the most outstanding young Array Formation Grandmasters. The city you represent will also receive glory because of your performance. The top 100 Array Masters will receive a common reward from all the major cities. The top 10 cultivators will be given the opportunity to comprehend the tablet, as well as cultivation resources and books on array techniques. The top 30 cultivators will be given extremely precious cultivation resources and books on array techniques. The 31st to 100th cultivators will be given abundant cultivation resources. I hope that everyone will be able to perform at their best. Qin Jian briefly announced the rewards. The Array Formation Master Competition had been held for many years. Everyone knew the significance of this competition, so there was no need to mention it. Even so, the Array Masters who were about to participate in the competition couldn't help but look forward to it after hearing about the rich rewards. This wasn't just a chance to become famous. At the same time, as long as they could grasp this opportunity, just the cultivation resources alone would be enough for them to advance further. Shen Duanyu clenched his fists tightly and looked determined. This Array Formation Master Competition was his only chance. Chapter 68:12. As long as he could grasp the opportunity, he believed that there would still be city lords who would value his talent and extend an olive branch to him. "Duanyu, you can definitely do it." Shen Duanyu nodded slightly, and his gaze unconsciously turned towards Di Beichen. A sinister look appeared on his face once again. He wanted to see what kind of results this guy could achieve. "Ning Tian, your foresight is only SOSO. On the high platform, the 5 Grandmasters also appeared one by one. Shen Xing, Ning Tian, and Zhen Gudao were among them. In addition, there were 2 other Grandmasters who were also highly respected. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the 5 Grandmasters on the high platform and understood why their matter had caused such a big commotion. There were only 5 Grandmasters in total as judges, and their matter directly involved 3 Grandmasters. It was impossible not to attract attention. Thinking about it carefully, as Zhen Gudao's disciple, Shen Duanyu did indeed have the right to be proud. Just in terms of his teachings, ordinary Array Masters could not compare to him at all. Next, the participating Array Masters can walk up to the high platform. Tables had already appeared on the high platform. Even though the large platform was filled with tables, it still looked very spacious. Bailey Hongzhuang only took a rough look at the tables and understood that there must be more than 1,000 Array Masters participating in this competition. Wanting to enter the top 100 meant that at least 1 out of 10 people had to be chosen. It was indeed not easy to stand out. Fortunately, her mentality was very calm. Participating in this competition was more for the sake of gaining experience and understanding. Bailey Hongzhuang, Deep Beichun, and Shihai walked up to the high platform together. The circular high platform was surrounded by several stairs. One array master after another walked down from the stands and walked up to the high platform in an orderly manner. After walking up to the high platform, Bailey Hongzhuang realized that the positions had already been marked. Even though there were many chairs on the high platform at this moment, they still quickly found the position that belonged to them. When Ning Tian and Shun Xing noticed that Bailey Hongzhuang had actually appeared on the high platform with Di Beichun, surprise appeared in their eyes. According to their understanding, Bailey Hongzhuang was an alchemist, not an array master. Wasn't it strange for her to appear here during the array formation master competition? Just what kind of state has this Qingyang city fallen to now that even alchemists have come to make up the numbers to participate in the formation master competition? How laughable! Zheng Gudao naturally noticed this as well, and he did not hold back in his ridicule. Even if an alchemist came to participate, his results would be much better than a certain someone's incompetent disciple. Ning Tian glanced at Zheng Gudao. I heard that you expelled Shinduanyu from your sect? At least you still have some foresight. Although it's a little late, you still need some time to recover from old age, right? In terms of sarcasm, Ning Tian would never lose. Sure enough, Zheng Gudao's expression instantly became livid. Ning Tian, don't go too far. Who was the one who started it? Ning Tian rolled her eyes. So what if this girl is here to play around? They're just two young people who have just ascended. Give them some time, and their results will definitely be much better than Shenduanyu's. Ning Tian was very certain about this. Shun Xing nodded slightly. To be able to be taken in as a disciple by that master, Di Beichun's talent could be imagined. He definitely could not be compared to the likes of Shenduanyu. They needed to use their mental energy to form a formation and merge it with the formation stones. Bailey Hongzhuang took out the array stone, and her mental power quickly spread out. A first-grade killing array was actually the entry level of array techniques. It was the most basic array techniques like trap arrays and illusion arrays. This was what she learned when she first came into contact with it. Although she didn't make many array stones, it wasn't a problem for her. Di Beichun began to create the formation stones without saying a word. Recently, he had been creating formation stones very frequently, so he was very familiar with the process of creating formation stones. In fact, the truly powerful array techniques were directly set up and not contained in the formation stones. Chapter 68:14. The entire competition ground gradually quieted down. Everyone's gaze landed on the formation masters who were focused on making formation stones on the high platform. The result of every round was related to the final result. Even though every formation master could pass the first round, it was precisely because of this simple question that it often reflected the differences between formation masters. According to past experience, any formation master who could stand out in this round would usually achieve a higher result than the other formation masters. This was because all formations were layered on top of basic formations. The more solid the foundation, the better the effects of the formations created. Shen Duanyu confidently began to make formation stones. He already knew that the first round's test would be this. Even though there would be a total of 5 formations, and he wasn't sure which one it was, he had already practiced all 5 formations well before this. Back then, Zhang Gudao had even helped him inspect the formation stones he made and had even obtained approval. Therefore, the first round wasn't difficult for him at all. Even though the competition time was less than an hour, in reality, it didn't take long for formation masters to finish making formation stones. This time was very ample for everyone. Bailey Hongzhuang was completely focused on making formation stones. Her mental power didn't relax at all. Every step was completed according to Senior Zhong Li's previous guidance. Her formation skills had also received guidance from Senior Zhong Li, but she spent more time learning from the books left behind by Beichin and Senior He Xinjun. During the year in the abandoned immortal forest, they had been doing their best to learn almost every day. They didn't dare to relax at all. Since she had chosen to participate in the competition today, she had to bring out her best abilities. Even if she couldn't get a place, she had to at least try her best so that she wouldn't have any regrets. When she noticed that many formation masters around her had already finished making their first formation stones, Bailey Hongzhuang was still calm and unhurried. She worked slowly and completely immersed herself in making formation stones. Look, Beichen's formation stones are also finished. Yang Lingfeng noticed that Di Bei-chan was very familiar with the process and calmly made the erase stone. He quietly breathed a sigh of relief. Although he also understood Di Bei-chen's strength and knew that there should not be any problems in the first level, it was inevitable that there would be some apprehension. Everyone's gazes turned to Di Bei-chen. After seeing the confident smile on his face, everyone felt relieved. They didn't know what Beichen's array formation was like, but if it could get the approval of 2 masters, it must be very outstanding. Almost everyone is done, but Hongzhuang's first array stone is not complete yet. Yang Qinxue noticed Bailey Hongzhuang beside Di Bei-chen. She was still making the first array stone. Hearing this, everyone had mixed feelings. They all knew that Hongzhuang wasn't very good at this, but it's still early. Even if Hongzhuang's speed is a little slow, as long as she can finish within the time limit, it won't be a problem, Yang Lingfeng said with a smile. Look, why did Beichen stop after making the first array stone? Qingli looked up in surprise. Many formation masters would start making the second one after making the first one. Chapter 68:15. Everyone looked at him, and sure enough, while everyone else was busy making the second array stone, Di Bei-chan really stopped and had no intention of continuing to make it. Did we forget to remind Bei-chan? Yang Qinxue and Yang Lingfeng looked at each other. They had participated in the array formation master competition several times, so they were very familiar with the rules. However, they had forgotten that Bei-chen and the others were not very clear about the rules. They had thought that this was the most basic thing that they did not need to mention. However, it seemed like they really did not mention it. I completely forgot about this. Yang Lingfeng looked embarrassed. In the lower realms, they only needed to make 1 array stone. However, the rules of the competition in the chaotic immortal realm were slightly different. They had forgotten to remind him. Then what should we do? Yang Qinxue was stunned. We have no way to remind him now. Don't worry. Yang Han looked at his anxious children and waved his hand. Beichen is so smart. He knows what he is doing. Making 1 more array stone is just to be safe. Who knows, maybe his first array stone is already so outstanding that he doesn't need to make a second one. This kind of situation had happened before in the array formation master competition. Some array formation masters who were very confident in their array formation skills would often stop after making 1 array stone. They did not plan to continue. This was because in such an environment, the array stone that was made later was not as good as the one that was made earlier. That's right. That's right. Making an extra one is for the sake of safety. You don't have to be so worried, Bai Ziyuan said. The group of juniors nodded when they heard that. However, the worry in their hearts did not dissipate. When Shun Duanyu noticed that Bailey Hongzhuang had not finished making the first array stone, a trace of mockery appeared in his eyes. He knew that this woman was just trying to impress the crowd. Could it be that she knew that Di Bei-chen would be embarrassed this time? So she came up to help him? What a joke. He slowly turned his gaze. He wanted to see if Di Bei-chen was as slow as him. However, he realized that after making the first array stone, Di Bei-chen sat there calmly and waited for the competition to end. Wasn't this guy a little too arrogant? Shin Duanyu's eyes widened in disbelief. Apart from a few famous array masters, no one else would dare to do such a thing. Di Bei-chen was just a fledgling, yet he was so arrogant. It was unknown whether he had real skills or was just trying to play to the gallery. As he thought of this, Shin Duanyu unconsciously became distracted. The formation stone in his hand suddenly shattered into powder. Looking at the powder in his hand, Shin Duanyu suddenly felt his face burning. If he failed to create a first-grade array stone, wouldn't it be a joke in the eyes of others? He quickly threw away the powder in his hand and picked up another array stone, pretending that nothing had happened. However, Such an act of deceiving oneself was obviously of no use. Many people noticed this and snickered in their hearts. To be able to fail in crafting a first-grade array stone, this level is truly impressive. Ning Tian raised her eyebrows, her gaze inadvertently sweeping over Zhen Gudao's face. Chapter 68-16. He's just distracted, that's all. He's already finished making the first formation stone, and his speed isn't as slow as some people's. It's clear how unskilled he is. Zhen Gudao retorted indifferently. From the perspective of a formation master, Bailey Hongzhuang's speed was indeed very slow. His main profession is an alchemist, and it's already not easy for him to do this for his secondary profession. I'll give you a day's time. Can you refine a single pill? Ning Tian asked with a smile. Zhen Gudao, he really couldn't be bothered to talk to this guy anymore. Shen Xing looked at Ning Tian helplessly. This guy's ability to anger people to death was really amazing. This was already the second time Zhen Gudao couldn't hold back his emotions today, and even he felt some sympathy for him. Bailey Hongzhuang's movements were very slow, but every step was methodical, and she finally finished making the first formation stone. With her level, she actually didn't need to spend so much time making it, but this round was about quality, so she paid extra attention to some small details. Beichen should be the same as her, because she noticed that Beichen's speed was also a bit slower than usual. Bailey Hongzhuang turned around and saw Di Beichen's faint smile as elegant and charming as an epiphyllum, carrying confidence and affirmation for her. Di Beichen wasn't worried at all in this round. In terms of mental strength, an alchemist's mental strength was much stronger than a normal person's. Moreover, with the complexity of pill refinement, this definitely wasn't a big problem for Hongzhuang. The two of them sat down just like that, waiting for the round to end. After Shihai finished making the second formation stone, he noticed that the two of them didn't have any intention of continuing, and he couldn't help but remind them, you can continue making it, and choose the best one for testing later. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Shihai's worried expression and said in a low voice, this is already the best I've made. She made the formation stone with her mental strength at its peak, and the entire process was exactly as she had imagined, without any problems. Therefore, even if it was remade, the effect would not be better than the current one. Di Beichun didn't say anything, but his expression clearly told Shihai that he had the same idea. Seeing this, Shihai felt as if he had received a heavy blow. Could it be that these two fellows were still showing off their affection at this time? What was she trying to do with this look of a husband singing and wife having a tacit understanding? Below the stage, Yang Qinxue and the others were not surprised to see that Hongzhuang had also stopped. They could not help but sigh in their hearts. These two fellows were indeed cut from the same cloth. This scene was naturally noticed by many people. On the entire high platform, other than the two of them, there were also a few people who did not continue with their production. However, these two people were the most unfamiliar. Master Shun, I heard that you admire a young man named Di Beichun. Qin Jian asked with a smile as he looked at the array masters who were busy with their work. Shen Xing nodded slightly. He is indeed a promising talent. A young man who has just arrived can still be so calm and composed in such competition. His bearing is indeed extraordinary. Qin Jian smiled faintly and probed. He stopped after making only one formation stone. It's clear that he's very confident in himself. Chapter 68-17. Following Shen Xing's words, Qin Jian's gaze could not help but change slightly. He had known Shen Xing for a long time and had always been very clear that he was a very conservative person. Generally speaking, even if he was very certain of something, he would not say it with certainty. However, he actually directly called a young man who had just ascended a genius. It was clear that he did not just admire this young man. Qin Jian looked at Di Beichen again. That calm and composed appearance was indeed extraordinary no matter how one looked at it. To be able to be thought so highly of by Shen Xing, this kid's future was also very bright. To be called a genius by Master Shen, he's naturally a well-deserved genius, Qin Jian said respectfully. After hearing this, Zhen Gudao could not help but find it funny. A A person who has not even participated in the Array Formation Master Assessment is a first-rate genius as soon as he opens his mouth. Isn't he afraid of being laughed at? Putting everything else aside, he did not think that Di Baichen's talent in array formation skills could surpass Shen Duanyu's. If it were not for this kid causing trouble, Shen Duanyu was also a junior that he admired very much. Now all of this would be ruined. If I say he is, then he is. At least in this aspect, he is more talented than me. Shen Xing's voice was full of confidence. He believed in the expert's judgment. Thinking back, he had also wanted to be apprenticed to the expert, but he was not accepted. The expert did not accept him as a disciple, but took Di Baichen as a disciple instead. This was enough to show that Di Baichen's talent in this aspect was stronger than his. Seeing that Shen Xing had said this, Zheng Gudao could not help but have some doubts in his eyes. Why did this guy seem to have fallen into a trap as soon as he met Di Baichen? For the sake of a young and unknown kid, he actually used himself as the bottom. Wasn't this too exaggerated? Qin Jian naturally also understood that Shen Xing's words were unusual. In his heart, his judgment of Di Baichen rose a little. Seeing Shen Xing like this, Ning Tian raised her eyebrows. This guy was completely determined to help Di Baichen properly, to repay the expert's kindness. However, this kid was indeed not bad. Dong! An hour had passed, and the first stage of the competition had come to an end. Bailey Hongzhuang placed the array stone into the brocade pouch with her name on it before handing it over. As all the array stones were collected, everyone realized that there was a huge detector beside Qin Jian. The detector can clearly detect the quality of the array stones, and the top 100 will be revealed. Qin Jian placed all the array stones into the detector, and the entire arena fell into silence. Everyone's eyes fell on the detector. The detector didn't take a long time. Soon, they would be able to see the ranking of the top 100. Although the ranking in the first stage did not represent the final ranking, it was still an extremely important factor. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the detector that was constantly running tests, and a look of interest appeared in her eyes. There were many things in the realm of chaotic immortals that couldn't be found in the lower planes. This detector didn't look simple. 100th place, Duan Jing of Luo Xian City. 99th place, Luo Xianqing from Clearwater City. Starting from the bottom of the ranking list, the rankings were revealed one by one. All of the array masters who saw their names on the rankings had a look of excitement on their faces. Chapter 68-18. There were more than 1,000 array masters participating in the competition. Even though it was only the last place on the ranking list, it still proved that they had defeated 1,000 opponents. How could that be easy? Moreover, the array masters who were able to participate in this competition were considered outstanding among the many array masters. Any cultivator who is able to appear on the list will be proud of their achievements. In the blink of an eye, the 70th place had appeared on the ranking list. However, Di Baichen and the others' names had yet to be seen. Faced with such a result, Yang Qinxue and the others were filled with anxiety. They really didn't know how to estimate it. They naturally hoped that Baichen and the others' results would appear on the ranking list. But in fact, their Qingyang city had almost never appeared on the ranking list in so many years. According to their thoughts, if there was a chance, it should be between the 70th and 100th place. That was the best result. Any higher would be impossible. Although it was normal for Qingyang City to not be able to enter the top 100, they felt that Baichen's strength should be quite good since he was chosen by the two masters. Forget about it this time. In the next array master competition, Baichen will definitely have a good result, Yang Han said slowly. Yang Han said slowly. A look of disappointment flashed across his eyes, but he quickly pulled himself together again. For a young man who had just ascended, such a request was already difficult. Bai Ziwan nodded. We're just here to broaden our horizons. The results are already very good. Actually, this result wasn't shameful. After all, there were just too many participants. 63rd place, Shiyun City's Chengsu. Father, it's Chengsu. A smile appeared on Bai Qingli's face. Chengsu was the most outstanding of the 3 array masters participating in the competition this time. To be able to obtain such a ranking was really a pleasant surprise. The corners of Bai Ziwan's lips couldn't help but curl up. This result was even better than the last time. Cheng Su's array skills are getting better and better, Yang Han praised. Bai Ziwan smiled faintly. Cheng Su has always been very diligent in this area. His improvement is also very obvious. On the high platform, Shihai's expression became abnormally ugly when he noticed that there were no names in their team among the 50th place announced. What should we do now? Shihai looked worriedly at Di Beichen and Lin Yiqian. He was only there to serve as a foil in today's competition, but Di Beichen and Lin Yiqian were the center of attention. Under such circumstances, if one didn't obtain a ranking, the more exaggerated the previous flattery, the more excessive the ridicule would be. Don't worry. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly, her phoenix eyes looking at the rankings. Her heart was a bit nervous. If she was participating in the alchemist competition, she wouldn't be worried at all. But it was an array master competition, so it was inevitable that she wouldn't be able to judge. She no longer cared about her own ranking. She was more interested in Beichen's ranking. The array master taught by Senior Zhong Li definitely wouldn't be weak. When Ning Tian noticed that Di Beichen's name hadn't appeared in the rankings, she couldn't help but feel puzzled. With this kid's strength, it shouldn't be impossible for him to enter the top 100. Right now, only the top 30 had yet to appear. Could it be that this kid actually entered the top 30? Chapter 68-19. Shen Xing and Ning Tian exchanged a glance. Regarding this result, they were also somewhat uncertain in their hearts. What they were more certain of was Di Beichen's future. As long as he was given a certain amount of time, he would definitely grow into a promising talent. It was just that in such a short time at present, this result was seriously hard to predict. After Shen Duanyu saw that the ranking was already reported to the 30th place, a thick look of smugness involuntarily surfaced in his eyes. How pretentious Di Beichen was previously. I even thought how formidable his strength was. Didn't expect that it was just a joke. Shen Duanyu laughed lightly. I want to see how he gets off the stage later. Duanyu, you're a rare genius array master to begin with. Back then, Master Zhen directly praised you as a 1 in 100 genius. How could Di Beichen be mentioned in the same breath as you? Mentioning Master Zhen, a trace of complicated look also surfaced in Shen Duanyu's eyes. How much Master Zhen appreciated him back then was how ironic everything now was. Just because of an insignificant Di Beichen, he was expelled from the sect. 10th place, Myriad Water Cities, Shen Duanyu. When this name appeared on the ranking list, Shen Duanyu's eyes also bloomed with dazzling brilliance. Among the 1,000 or so array masters, he was actually ranked 10th. This result was already enough for him to be proud of. Such a long period of hard work was not in vain. When Zhen Gudao saw this name, a trace of gloomy and unclear light also surfaced in the depths of his eyes, and he could not help feeling somewhat emotional in his heart. The reason why he thought so highly of Shen Duanyu back then was that he indeed had uncommon talent in this aspect. This kind of result was already an extremely top-notch existence among the younger generation. After Bailey Hongzhuang noticed this name, her eyes also changed slightly. No wonder Shen Duanyu was usually arrogant and despotic. He indeed had the capital. Now, only 9 places had yet to appear. She was originally full of confidence in herself, but now she only felt that she might be ranked after the 100th place. She might not be good at high-grade array formations, but this first-grade array stone she learned from Senior Zhong Li together with Beichen back then. Senior Zhong Li's requirements for basic formations could be described as harsh. They had practiced this first-grade formation countless times. Just now when she was making it, she was fully focused, and every detail was handled meticulously. Logically speaking, there shouldn't be any problems. Wife, there's no need to worry. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's constantly changing expression, Di Beichen's voice was as warm as the sun, shining into her slightly cold heart and dispelling her original worry. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. At this point, even if they didn't enter, it was fine. Beichen, you couldn't have entered the top 5, right? Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly became interested. She didn't have much confidence in herself, but she was very confident in Beichen. Beichen smiled faintly and said nothing. Below the high platform, Yang Han and the others had already completely given up hope. I really didn't think that this guy Shan Duanyu could actually enter the top 10. When the time comes, who knows how he'll make fun of Beichen. Yang Qinchue's face was gloomy. This guy was petty to begin with. When he had no ability, he was very arrogant. Now that the results were out, who knew how proud he would be? Chapter 68-20. Most of the array formation masters present were people who had studied for a long time. If they did not have a certain number of years, they would not have the chance to come and participate either. These 1,000 over array formation masters were the most outstanding array formation masters in the first place. The top 100 were even the pinnacle. Not being able to enter was expected. When the competition ends later, don't reveal a look of pity either. It's not a big deal, understand? Yang Han reminded. To young people, failure was nothing scary. Losing confidence was the scariest. Don't worry, Dad. We know, Yang Qinxue said seriously. Fourth place, Wanshui City's Jiang Haiyan. When this name appeared, Shun Duanyu's expression changed instantly. This was his eldest senior brother. Not seeing him for a while, he did not expect that his eldest senior brother's array formation skills actually improved so much. Recalling that Zheng Gudao had once said before that he would wait until the day before the competition to give them pointers, it was very clear that his eldest senior brother passed through this round of pointers, which was why he had such results. Fourth place. Although the 4th and 10th place were both in the top 10, the difference between them was like heaven and earth. When Zheng Gudao saw this ranking, a trace of astonishment flashed across his face, seemingly somewhat puzzled. Master Zhen, a great teacher indeed, produces a great disciple. Jiang Haiyan's array formation skills are really getting more and more outstanding now. Qin Jian congratulated with a smile. Zheng Gudao swiftly covered up the hesitation on his face, revealing a joyful smile on his face. He's always been more hardworking. That's also because Master Zhen taught him well. Facing everyone's compliments, the smile on Zheng Gudao's face also continued to widen. His gaze turned to Ning Tian by the side. The person that someone wants to protect in such a high-profile manner actually didn't even enter the top 100. Qin Jian and the other two masters' gazes also involuntarily turned to Ning Tian. This matter caused an uproar. They naturally all knew about it too. It was just that they thought that someone who could be valued so highly by the two masters should at least enter the top 100. They did not expect that he actually did not even cause a ripple. Ning Tian's expression was cold, as if he did not care at all. Don't you think about how many years you've taught this disciple of yours? I haven't taught anything yet. Wait until the next competition to say these words. Hearing that, everyone's expression changed slightly. Thinking about it carefully, that was indeed the case. It was just that everyone could not help but be a little disappointed. Zheng Gudao didn't mind seeing Ning Tian's appearance. In any case, he had already lost face. It was just that this guy liked to put on a brave front. Master Fan, your son Fan Ziheng has entered the top 3 this time. Who knows? He might even be able to take first place. Zheng Gudao smiled as he congratulated Fan Xian. Fan Xian had been famous for a long time and could be said to be a highly respected array master. His son was also very outstanding in array techniques. Almost everyone knew Fan Ziheng's name. This time, they were aiming for first place. A smile appeared on Fan Xian's face as well. That might not be the case. There might even be some dark horses. In my view, Fan Ziheng is the true dark horse, Zheng Gudao said with a smile. You really know how to flatter. Ning Tian said coldly. The reason why he and Zheng Gudao did not see eye to eye was because this guy always acted like a bootlicker, which was extremely irritating to look at. Zheng Gudao's face darkened, and even Fan Xian's expression was slightly awkward, faintly revealing slight displeasure. Chapter 68-21. Shen Xing glanced at Ning Tian and shook his head slightly, indicating that he didn't need to care about this. They were very clear about Beichen's talent. The other party was looking for trouble now, because there was nothing they could do. If they were to take it seriously, they would be at a disadvantage instead. Zhen Gudao saw that Ning Tian finally shut his mouth, and a trace of pride appeared on his face. He finally managed to talk this guy down. Third place, Chiema City's Fan Zihong. On the ranking list, the name of the third place was already displayed. Seeing this name, Zhen Gudao was also a little surprised. According to his judgment, Fan Zihong should have won first place this time. Fan Zihong was different from Shen Duanyu. Shen Duanyu was carefully groomed after being discovered by him, while Fan Zihong learned array techniques from Fan Xian from a young age. Over the years, Fan Zihong's reputation was extremely resounding. Even before the competition began, in everyone's hearts, he was already the first place by default. However, in this first round, Fan Zihong was actually only third place. Fan Xian's expression suddenly changed a little, and there was a thick sense of doubt in the depths of his eyes. Could it be that Fan Zihong performed abnormally in the first round of the competition? Logically speaking, the first round of the competition was the easiest. Not only was there plenty of time, there was also time to create the second and third array stones and choose the best one from them. Such a problem shouldn't have occurred. On the high platform, the gazes of many array masters also fell on Fan Zihong. This was clearly an aberration. I really didn't expect Fan Zihong to actually be third place this time. I wonder which two people actually surpassed Fan Zihong. These two people are incredible. How resounding is Fan Zihong's reputation? Even Jiang Haiyan can't compare to him at all. Now, these two people are stepping on Fan Zihong's reputation. Won't they soar to the sky? The rankings of those famous people have already been released. I'm really curious. Everyone's faces were filled with curiosity. Although the rankings at the back were more difficult to guess, for the top 10, everyone basically had a judgment in their hearts. The results this time were clearly somewhat different from their judgment. Not only the spectators present, even the five masters had some doubts in their hearts. It seemed that two very outstanding dark horses had indeed appeared in this array master competition. This kind of situation was not unprecedented in the history of the array master competition, so everyone could still accept it. Second place, Bailey Hongzhuang of Qingyang City. The moment this name appeared on the ranking list, the entire venue fell into a deathly silence. Yang Lingfeng's gaze was fixated on those familiar words. He felt that he recognized those words, but when they were put together, why couldn't he believe it? He rubbed his eyes hard and found that the words on the ranking board did not change. He could not help but ask, "Sister, am I seeing things?" Yang Qinxue looked confused. "I think my eyes are playing tricks on me too." Bai Qingli, is there something wrong with our eyes? Bai Ziyuan was also stunned for a long time. It wasn't until he reacted that he put his hand on Yang Han's shoulder. "Brother Yang, you really have a discerning eye this time. How is it that Hong Zhuang doesn't know array techniques? If he really didn't know how could he have gotten second place?" Even Fan Zihong was suppressed. Chapter 68-22. They all knew very well that Hong Zhuang's choice to participate in the Array Formation Master Competition this time was completely beyond her ability. From the beginning until now, she actually had no intention of participating. If Fan Guangshuan had not left, Bailey Hongzhuang would not have participated at all. However, it was this kind of person who had no confidence in her array formation skills that actually obtained second place. Was this a joke? Shen Duanyu was completely dumbfounded. He could not believe the words on the ranking list at all. Bailey Hongzhuang was second place? An alchemist had obtained second place? There was something wrong with the detector, right? Qin Jian, Zhen Gudao, and the rest all fell silent. The entire venue was incomparably quiet. Their first reaction was not shock, but suspicion that there was something wrong with the detector. City Lord Qin, has this detector not been repaired for a long time? Zhen Gudao asked. Qin Jian thought about it and shook his head. It can't be. For this competition, I even sent people to specially check a while ago. Logically speaking, there shouldn't be any problems. That's impossible. There must be a problem. Zhen Gudao's voice was certain. How can an alchemist obtain second place? I was saying that Sir Fan's ranking was not quite right. So it was a problem with the detector. Fan Xian nodded slightly. and his expression looked better. If his own son lost to an alchemist in array formation skills, wouldn't it become a joke if word got out? Ning Tian and Shun Xing looked at each other. In the face of everyone's confirmation, the two of them did not open their mouths to refute, because this result was indeed a little too fantastical. Why, don't I send someone to check it? Qin Jian said hesitantly. In the array formation master competition that was held once every 10 years, if such a problem occurred in the grading, it would indeed be quite terrible. Zhen Gudao nodded repeatedly. This has to be cleared up before we can give everyone justice. Ning Tian, the heavens might have seen that you've lost all your face, so they purposely gave you a surprise. Zhen Gudao laughed softly. Unfortunately, this is a fake surprise. Ning Tian glanced coldly at the smug Zhen Gudao, his eyes full of displeasure. However, looking at the ranking list above, he was somewhat puzzled. If there really was a problem with the detector, then wasn't this too much of coincidence? Miss Bailey, your second place? Even Shihai's words were a little shaky. He had studied array formation skills for so many years, but had never interacted with an array master in the top 10. Who would have thought that Bailey Hongzhuang, whom he was worried about just a moment ago, would suddenly become second place? Bailey Hongzhuang was also somewhat puzzled. She really had not communicated with others about array techniques, and she had no understanding of her own level of array techniques. If Beit Shan is in first place, then I might be in second place. Bailey Hongzhuang was a little hesitant. She had also heard the discussion between the masters. It seemed like there was a problem with the detector. At this time, the first place, Qingyang City's D. Beit Shan. Along with the mention of this name, everyone was once again shocked. Their expressions became very interesting. Qingyang City is really amazing this time. They didn't even make it into the top 100 before, but now both first and second place are from Qingyang City. How impressive is that? No wonder Master Ning and Master Shun are so protective of them. This kind of strength is really too shocking. Chapter 68-23. Yang Qinxue. Who am I? Yang Lingfeng. Where am I? Yang Han. What am I doing? Bai Ziyuan and Bai Qingli looked at the Yang family members who had completely fallen into a daze with complex emotions. If something like this had happened to them, they probably wouldn't have performed any better, right? Brother Yang. Bai Ziyuan waved his hand in front of Yang Lingfeng's eyes. Only then did Yang Lingfeng come to his senses, his face still filled with disbelief. Ever since I came to this small world, I feel like I've been hit by a pie in the sky, Yang Han lamented. He hadn't had such good luck in so many years, and now it had all fallen on his head. It was like falling into a dream, and even his footsteps were a little weak. Zhen Gudao's expression was also a little strange. If there really was a malfunction, could it really be so coincidental? Shun Xing and Ning Tian also didn't say anything. In this situation, they couldn't make any conclusions. There might be some malfunction with the detector. I'll send someone to check it first. In the face of the extremely strange atmosphere, Qin Jian still took the initiative to state this possibility. If there really was a problem, then the rankings would have to be redone. Following Qin Jian's words, everyone felt the hand that was strangling their throats dissipate, and they were able to speak again. So, it's because of the detector. I was wondering how they could get such a good ranking. What kind of people are Fan Ziheng and Jiang Haiyan? It would be strange if these two newcomers could surpass them. That scared me to death. But it was such a big surprise, and because of a malfunction, wouldn't it be a joke if they didn't enter the top 100 when the rankings are redone? Mocking voices sounded one after another. Everyone was looking forward to the rankings of the first stage. Shen Duanyu also heaved a sigh of relief. I was wondering how these two guys could get such a result. If even an alchemist could get second place, then it would be a joke. His heart was in his mouth just now, and now that he knew everything was fake, he was completely relieved. Don't worry, D. Beichen's array skills can't compare to yours. On the other side, after Fan Ziheng heard the results, his originally stiff face regained a smile. He was determined to get first place this time. Yang Qinxue and the others were a little disappointed after learning about this result. but they quickly recovered. In fact, this result was easier to accept. If everything was true, that would be really shocking. For a moment, Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang became the target of ridicule. The result was too dramatic. Before long, Qin Jian returned to the martial arts arena. Zhen Gudao was the first to speak. City Lord Qin, has the detector been repaired? Shall we begin the re-examination now? Qin Jian nodded slightly. I've already checked it again, but I don't think there's anything wrong with the detector. However, to be fair, we can try it again now. How could there possibly be no problem? Zhen Gudao laughed lightly, clearly not believing it. The detector has been fixed. There are no problems now, so we'll start the test again. Chapter 68-24. These two kids are really unlucky. It was nothing at first, but now that something like this has happened, everyone will compare them instead. Shun Xing sighed. He was starting to wonder if Zhen Gudao was behind all of this in order to make trouble for them. Previously, they were in the top 2. If they didn't even enter the top 100, wouldn't they become everyone's laughingstock? I hope this isn't Zhen Gudao's doing. Otherwise, I'll let him know what regret is. Ning Tian narrowed her eyes and glanced coldly at Zhen Gudao. This guy had always been dishonest and haggled over the smallest details. It was inevitable that he would stir up trouble behind their backs. Rankings appeared one after another on the ranking board. 100th place, Luo Immortal Cities, Duan Jing. 99th place, Clearwater Cities, Luo Xianqing. The cultivators who still appeared on the ranking board couldn't help but sigh in relief when they saw the rankings. At least they had entered the top 100. However, as the rankings increased, they realized that the order was no different from before. My ranking hasn't changed. Isn't it still the same as before? Mine too. It hasn't changed at all. 10th place, Wanshui Cities, Shunduanyu. Shunduanyu frowned when he saw the familiar rankings. He was hoping that his ranking would move up a little, but he didn't expect it to be the same. Most importantly, he couldn't help but panic when he saw that the rankings hadn't changed at all. For th place, Wanshui City's Jiang Haiyan. 3rd place, Qinma City's Fan Zihong. In the blink of an eye, only the last two were left. 2nd place, Qingyang City's Bailey Hongzhuang. 1st place, Qingyang City's Di Beichen. Everyone looked at each other in dismay, their expressions becoming very strange. City Lord Qin, are you sure this detector is fixed? Zhen Gudao couldn't help but ask. Qin Jian nodded slightly. I'm sure there's no problem. Impossible. There must be a problem somewhere. Zhen Gudao's attitude was firm. This was an absolutely impossible result. Qin Jian frowned when he saw this. I've already checked this detector several times. I'm sure there's no problem. If Master Zhen doesn't believe me, you can check it yourself. Ning Tian's eyes lit up when she saw Qin Jian's confident expression. In that case, the rankings are real. It's just that some people don't want to believe it. The excitement in Shan Xing's eyes was also difficult to conceal. He had long known that the strength of that expert's disciple was definitely not simple. However, such a ranking still somewhat surprised him. This was simply too unbelievable. Although the first stage was just a basic array formation, as array formation masters, they knew very well that the basics were the most important. There must be a problem. Zhen Gudao's attitude was resolute. He turned his head to look at Fan Xian. Master Fan, we need to go check it out together. At this moment, Ning Tian waved her hand. If you don't want to believe it, you won't believe it no matter how hard you try to fix it. At the end of the day, aren't you guys just doubting the strength of the top 2? Isn't that simple? You just have to take out the formation stones crafted by the top 4, and we'll know once we judge. Although Ning Tian was very unhappy with Zhen Gudao, he had to admit that Jiang Haiyan's attainments in array techniques were not bad. This array stone was made very well. Master Fan's array stone is undoubtedly of a better quality. It even avoids some minor problems, and its effects are even stronger. Zhen Gudao had a look of admiration on his face. After seeing this formation stone, he was even more certain that there was something wrong with the detector. At this level, Even the first-grade array stones that they made would not be much better. Just based on Di Beiqian and Bailey Hongzhuang, how could they be the top two? Chapter 68-26. Grandmaster Zhen, you praise me too much. Fan Xian looked modest, but the smile at the corners of his eyes could not be concealed. His son had always made him proud, and there was no need to say more about the effort he had put into this formation stone. I'm telling the truth. Zhen Gudao was all smiles. Let me see what the formation stone made by this stunning second-place finisher looks like. Zhen Gudao picked up the formation stone made by Bailey Hongzhuang and examined it. However, the moment he examined it, his expression immediately stiffened and became complicated. Shun Xing and Ning Tian were originally a little worried, but when they saw the sudden change in Zhen Gudao's expression, they could not help but hesitate. Could it be, Grandmaster Zhen, what's wrong? Fan Xian could not help but ask when he saw that Zhen Gudao did not move at all, his expression as if he had seen a ghost. Zhen Gudao did not speak, and only silently handed the formation stone to Fan Xian. His expression alternated between green and white, and became extremely complicated. Fan Xian picked up the formation stone to examine it, and his hand could not help but tremble. His expression was not much different from Zhen Gudao's. Grandmaster Fan, what's going on? Qin Jian was only a layman, but when he saw the two grandmasters' extremely strange expressions, his heart was also filled with curiosity. What was wrong with this formation stone? After a brief daze, a slightly bitter smile appeared on Fan Xian's face. This second-place finisher really lives up to her reputation. Ning Tian and Shun Xing were originally wondering if there was a problem, but when they suddenly heard this sentence, their expressions also became very interesting. They quickly took Bailey Hongzhuang's formation stone, and with a glance, they discovered the problem. The formation stone made by Bailey Hongzhuang had already completely resolved those small problems. Even if the other party wanted to break this formation, the time they would need to spend would be much greater than that of an ordinary first-rank formation. Even if they were to do it, they would not be able to make a better one. An alchemist could actually make a formation stone of this level. Zhen Gudao only felt his face burning. What was wrong with this group of people? Wasn't it good to be an alchemist? Why do you have to run all the way here to participate in the Formation Master Tournament? Not only did he participate, he even achieved such a result. Recalling how he had confidently said that there must be something wrong with the detector, he felt his face hurt. An excited smile appeared on Ning Tian's face. Looks like this Bailey girl is really a genius. Not only is she an excellent alchemist, but she's also an outstanding array master. She's just like me. He had two professions to begin with, and because of this matter, he was often criticized by others. But later on, he used his strength to prove everything, and only then did everyone shut their mouths. He didn't expect that there would be such an interesting character among the younger generation, which made him very happy. When Qin Jian heard Master Fan's words, he couldn't help but sigh. So, it was true. Since the array stone in second place is already so outstanding, what about the array stone in first place? As soon as these words came out, the eyes of Ning Tian and the others fell on the last array stone. Even they couldn't imagine how Di Beiqian's array stone was better than Bailey Hongzhuang's. Chapter 68-27. Although Zhen Gudao and the others hadn't checked Di Beiqian's array stone yet, they could tell from Shun Xing's amazed expression that Di Beiqian deserved the first place. Let me take a look. Ning Tian was also very interested. He directly took the array stone from Shun Xing's hand and examined it carefully. He knew that Di Beiqian's ingenuity in the field of array stones was much better than the young array masters he usually saw. For example, the last time Di Beiqian made a trap array. Overall, the process of making it was not very complicated. What was complicated was how he thought of how to superimpose these arrays. Although the basic array techniques were the same, most array masters were only good at common array techniques. In fact, array techniques could be innovated and layered. It was just that many array masters couldn't do this. In fact, array masters who could layer array techniques were often people with extraordinary talent. Bachin had just learned array techniques not long ago, but he could layer array techniques and achieve such an effect. This in itself was very amazing. After checking Bachin's array stone, Ning Tian's expression was similar to Shun Xing's. This performance really surprised them. Not only did they not find any problems with this first-grade array stone, but on the contrary, it was stronger than other array stones of the same level. It was stronger than the one made by Bailey Hongzhuang. These two are really a pair. The effect of the elixir refined by Bailey Hongzhuang is stronger than usual, and the array stone made by this kid is stronger than usual. What a perfect match. Ning Tian smiled, and the corners of his eyes couldn't help but curve upward. This was really a surprise. At this moment, Fan Xian also abandoned his original opinion of Bachin and Xin Xing. In the face of a truly talented array master, he still admired them very much. Although this kind of result blocked Fan Ziheng's path, even he couldn't say anything bad about the array stone made. Shun Duanyu had been paying attention to the changes in the expressions of the five masters. He only hoped that there was a problem with the detector. Otherwise, if this was really the result, how could he live? However, when he saw Zhang Gudao's increasingly ugly expression, a bad premonition gradually rose in his heart. In contrast, Ning Tian and Shun Xing were extremely elated. Could it be that the results were real? When Zhang Gudao personally examined the formation stones created by Bachin, his heart was also filled with shock. To be able to create such a high level of array formation, it was impossible to say that there was no expert guiding them from behind. Although it was only a first-grade array stone, because it was too common, it was very difficult to make a first-grade array stone surpass others. If it was said that a grassroots array master could achieve this, it would be no different from a fantasy. Even if he was a genius, it was still impossible for him to do so. Thinking back to Shun Xing and Ning Tian's attitude, could it be that this seemingly ordinary Bachin was actually the disciple of some expert? The more Zhang Gudao thought about it, the more he felt that his judgment was correct. Previously, when he heard Xin Duanyu mention the expert that Shun Xing recognized, he only took it as a joke and didn't take it seriously at all. Now, it appeared that all of this was true. It was no wonder that Shun Xing and Shun Ying's attitudes had undergone such a drastic change. Otherwise, even if they were extremely optimistic about Tang Wulin, there was no way that they would say something like this when Tang Wulin had yet to achieve any results. Chapter 68-28. Grandmaster Zhen, you've already personally inspected this array stone. You shouldn't have any doubts about this result, right? Ning Tian was all smiles as she looked at Zhang Gudao. This smile, that was as brilliant as a peach blossom, was simply dazzling to the extreme in his eyes. If there's any problem, it's better for you to check it clearly now. Otherwise, if there's any doubt later, wouldn't that be troublesome? Zhang Gudao looked at Ning Tian with a malicious gaze. This guy could be said to have turned over a new leaf and was very pleased with himself. This array stone was right there. Even if he wanted to find fault with it, he couldn't. Wasn't he just trying to squeeze him by saying this? No, Zhang Gudao said sullenly. The smile on Ning Tian's face became even more pleased. Previously, I don't know who it was that we valued who didn't have any ability at all. As a person, you can't be too full of yourself. Otherwise, retribution will come too quickly. That would be very embarrassing. When he said this, Ning Tian didn't look at him, but everyone present knew very well that Ning Tian was talking about Zhang Gudao. Zhang Gudao's face was already as black as the bottom of a pot. He knew that this guy definitely didn't have anything good to say. Who asked him to be so close? Now, Ning Tian was just taking revenge on him. On the side, Fan Xian was also silent. Who would have thought that there would be such a contrast in the end? Even he found it hard to believe. After seeing that the 5 grandmasters had confirmed this result without a doubt, Qin Jin stood up and announced, after the 5 grandmasters' confirmation, the results on the ranking board are the correct results. Congratulations to the array masters on the board. Following Qin Jin's words, the scene first fell into a momentary silence, which was quickly followed by bursts of exclamations. My God, this result is actually real. I told you Di Beichen and the others are capable, right? You guys are still refuting me, just now. Now you know who's speaking the truth. The cultivators who were originally squeezed out by everyone because they spoke up for Di Beichun and Ning Tian suddenly felt as if they had turned over a new leaf. All their grievances were swept away at this moment. The feeling of exaltation made them feel refreshed. When they looked at Di Beichun and Ning Tian again, they only felt that they were more pleasing to the eye. The more they looked, the more they worshipped them. Who would have thought that this would be the result? These are really two dark horses. Everyone else also turned around, although they felt their faces hurt when they said this. Sis, hit me. I feel like I'm hallucinating. I'm not rational anymore. Yang Lingfeng turned his head with a blank expression. Although he had heard everything clearly, why did he feel that it was so unreal? Pa! Yang Qinxue slapped Yang Lingfeng's shoulder hard. The sharp pain from his shoulder caused Yang Lingfeng to grimace in pain. Just as he was about to complain about his sister's ruthlessness, he saw his sister looking at him expectantly. How is it? Does it hurt? Does it not hurt? Do you want me to hit you again? Stop, stop, stop. Yang Lingfeng grabbed Yang Qinxue's hand. It's so painful. Can't you see your brother's expression? Yang Qinxue stared at Yang Lingfeng for a moment. I saw it, but I still don't believe it. Bai Qingli looked at the siblings who had completely lost their composure, and a helpless smile appeared on her face. He also found this result hard to believe, but these two guys... Chapter 68-29. It's actually true. It's really true, Yang Lingfeng and Yang Qinxue couldn't help but jump on the spot. This was simply too exciting. Although it was only the first stage, their Qingyang city had never produced a top 100 in all these years, let alone the first stage. This time, it was actually first and second place. This was simply like a dream. From now on, Beichun is my god. Hong Zhuang even said that she didn't know how to do it. If she can get second place, even though she doesn't know how to do it, wouldn't she be heaven-defying? Yang Han looked at the siblings who had completely gone crazy. Not only did he not have any intention of reprimanding them, he was also in a state of ecstasy. The ups and downs were simply too great. Even he didn't dare to believe that all of this was real. He was even worried that after a while, someone would say that there was a problem with all of this. However, his rationality told him that the 5 masters had already personally examined the results. It was impossible for there to be any changes in the results. Bai Ziyuan also sighed. When all of this was confirmed to be true, he felt as if he had fallen into a dream. Although the first stage was the stage that Di Beiqin and Yang Qinxue were the most proficient in, it would be more difficult for them to achieve good results in the remaining 2 stages because they had only studied formations for a short period of time. However, just obtaining a place in this stage was enough for them to be proud of. Everyone knew very well that as long as they could continue to maintain this, their results in the future would definitely not be bad. Beiqin and Yang Qinxue are too modest. Bai Qingli couldn't help but sigh. This standard was enough to be proud of, but from the beginning to the end, they didn't show the slightest bit of arrogance. It was to the extent that they really felt that their formations weren't strong enough. Yang Lingfeng's face was filled with excitement. Shen Duanyu was still hooting about competing with Beiqin. A 10th place actually has the nerve to hoot about the first place. Beiqin couldn't even be bothered with him. All right? Bai Qingli smiled and nodded. Ever since Lingfeng's injuries had healed, his temperament had really changed quite a bit. Shen Duanyu's face had long turned green. That dazzling first place was like a huge slap that directly slapped him to the ground. He didn't even dare to look at Di Beichun, but he still felt uneasy. Didn't you say that Di Beichun has no strength at all? You're lying, right? I don't think you're from Qingyang City at all. Are you Shen Duanyu's lackey? Are you deliberately speaking ill of Di Beichun and the others? Isn't this person a little too vicious? Recently, quite a few people have believed his words. Below the high platform, many people turned their gazes towards Fan Guangshuan. Fan Guangshuan was the one who had been the most ridiculous when talking about this matter, causing them to believe him. Now that the other party had used his strength to prove everything, they realized that they had been tricked. Fan Guangshuan's face alternated between green and white. Faced with everyone's disdainful gazes, he only wished that he could dig a hole in the ground and hide. Damn Di Beichun. He clearly has such strength, yet he pretends that he doesn't. It's all for the sake of luring people into a trap. He's absolutely detestable. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.